100 years ago, after the revival of spiritual chi, it became the most fundamental energy in the world, and, under the influence of spiritual chi, living creatures evolved in two directions, one being a wild ancestral regression that enhanced their physical power, and the other being a spiritual mutation that focused on energy-based attacks. And in turn, humanity developed various spiritual chi professions. And at this moment, someone is looking at their phone, seeing someone asking what they should do if they are bitten by a ghost thorn spider. And right below the post, someone is replying that they should look for a spiritual chi professional to have a chance of surviving. So the boy knows the person does not need to panic, because they just need to drink plenty of hot water and lie down in a well-ventilated place to avoid the body getting a bad smell, until his kitten, called Smarty, and whose species is the 100 Questions beast, comments that it is very hot. Then the cat climbs onto the boy's head and says, he heard that outside it is cooler. The boy wants to know what his little pet is doing. The kitten goes to the window and starts tapping, wanting his owner to open it. After the boy opens the window and the kitten feels the breeze coming from outside, he asks his owner not to forget to take the medicine. Later outside, the boy is sweeping the trash. This is Lin Yuan, 18 years old and owner of a small spiritual creature shop. He keeps in mind that although people in the world can use spiritual chi to promote the growth of living creatures, he knows that for himself, it is like an impossible fairy tale, since he is fully aware that he has been a fragile person since childhood and completely unable to feel the existence of spiritual chi since he was 8 years old. Besides not being able to improve his physical condition with spiritual chi like a normal person, much less contract high-level spiritual creatures, after removing the cloth from the plants, Lin Yuan tells his cat that blocking the light with a cloth is not enough because the weather is very hot and there is no good way to cool things down. The plant in question is a lily. The kitten comments that it looks like the plant is almost withering. The MC replies yes, and explains that as a low-grade healing spiritual plant, it simply is not competitive because it is even worse than the green vines used as fodder. Then, he thinks that in the world since the revival of spiritual chi, all spiritual creatures are divided by grade and quality, so he knows that anything below copper grade is considered low grade, and that almost no one is willing to spend resources raising low-level spiritual creatures, because compared to them, the high-level ones are much easier to evolve. And that, just like in the last 100 years, no one has ever heard of the evolution of the 100 Questions beast, which is his kitten species. At that moment, Yin, the MC's bird, arrives with his medicine. Lin Yuan reflects that with a body as weak as his, just contracting low-level creatures like Smarty and Yin left him dizzy for 2 weeks, not to mention sensing spiritual chi to raise them and help them level up. An hour later, both are bored. Smarty wants to know if humans like to sleep in. Since there is no one on the street, the MC wants to know what his little animal is talking about, until he sees some people passing by and shouts asking them to take a look, because he has some great-looking green climbers. The little girl calls her mother and asks her to look at the MC's kitten because it is the same species as Kiki. Smarty smiles, welcomes them, and asks if they would like to buy a green climber. The little girl's kitten comments that Smarty's fur is so dry and gray that it is obvious he is a leftover and definitely cannot compare to hers. Smarty becomes very frustrated at being considered a leftover, so he shouts saying that both are from the same 100 Questions beast species, and that if the kitten has the courage, they should settle it with rock, paper, scissors. Lin Yuan picks up his little pet and asks him to calm down, then asks how he is going to play rock, paper, scissors with his paws, and whether he wants to be taken for a walk to cheer up. Smarty answers yes, so the MC turns and emphasizes that it is fine because it is not as if they have any business to do. Smarty stresses that if he ate a few more pieces of cooked pork, he thinks he would definitely become smarter and would not have lost to that little cat. After that, they all go outside for a walk, and Yin calls Smarty and asks him not to be sad, because even if he is not as intelligent as other 100 Questions beasts, he is stingy. Smarty starts crying and makes it clear to the bird that hearing him say that only makes things worse. The MC takes a deep breath and thinks that if he could at least feel spiritual chi, he thinks things would be different, until Smarty shouts asking Lin Yuan to look to the left. And as soon as the MC turns, he sees a cutlass iron-armored pig and immediately questions what the creature is doing near the park and whether something happened at the farm. Smarty does not think twice and with shining eyes and drooling jumps toward the iron-armored pig, saying that a wild mountain of roasted pork has appeared. But the MC grabs him and wants to know if he is trying to get himself killed because he cannot beat the iron-armored pig. Lin Yuan sees the furious beast and wonders why the creature is angry. because he knows that iron-armored pigs are very docile beasts and that normally what his kitten did should not have made the creature furious. So he really wants to know what is happening. While running from the iron-armored pig, Lin Yuen realizes he is already very tired, more tired than usual. Smarty wants to know if the MC is okay until Lin Yuan loses balance and falls hard to the ground. Immediately, Smarty and Yin go in front of the MC and shout that they will protect him. Lin Yuan says he cannot faint yet and asks his little creatures to run until he feels something strange and wonders where he is. Then he turns upon hearing a voice calling him and sees a copper ring and wonders if it is what he thinks. So he remembers when he was younger and the copper ring disappeared after his own blood fell on it. At that moment, a powerful energy begins to emerge from the copper ring and goes to the MC's arm, who feels everything is returning. The spiritual chi he had been unable to feel since he was 8 years old. With this, Lin Yuan begins to stand up and sees Smarty running from the iron-armored pig. The kitten gets very close to being trampled by the creature, and Yin shouts for the MC to think of something quickly, who in turn thinks that even with the small amount of spiritual chi he just gained, he believes there is not enough time to do anything until the copper ring on his arm begins to shine even more and a power envelops his eye. So Lin Yuan realizes he can see all the information of the iron-armored pig clearly, which is level 3, and of his little pets. Level 1, having this in mind, the MC shouts, telling Smarty to dodge because the iron-armored pig will attack from the right. With that, Smarty manages to dodge, and the MC thinks it is still not good because he knows that even if his little pet can barely evade, the difference in strength between them is still very big. Then Lin Yuan looks at the copper ring on his arm and thinks he needs more power. And with that, while Yin shouts telling the iron-armored pig not to dare hurt his friend, an energy surrounds him. The MC notices this and immediately looks at his copper ring and concludes it is the same energy. Then while observing Yin and Smarty, he wonders if they are about to evolve and whether perhaps it is because of the power of the bracelet on his arm. At that moment, the iron-armored pig lets out a powerful roar, leaving the kitten and the bird stunned and wondering how the pig's roar is so strong. Lin Yuan thinks the situation is not good because he knows that even if his animals are about to evolve, the difference between level 1 and level 3 is still very large. Smarty and Yin continue running from the iron-armored pig so they will not be trampled. The MC shouts, asking Yin to sing to draw the beast's attention and that it can be any note as long as it is loud enough. So the bird begins to sing very loudly, leaving the iron-armored pig very dazed. Lin Yuan, covering his ears, comments that it is a good thing he has experience from having been a training partner more than 400 times before. But the iron-armored pig becomes even more irritated and hits Yin with a stomp. But the MC tells the bird to quickly turn and attack the creature's eyes, because he thinks that if it cannot see, it will not attack. Yin replies that it is fine, but as soon as he spreads his wings, something strange happens, and the power around him disappears. The MC falls to the ground lamenting because at that exact moment, his spiritual power ended. Then, he grabs the bracelet on his arm tightly and begs it to lend a little more power. With that, Yin comments that it seems he has recovered his energy. So without wasting time, he launches his attack and with his feathers blocks the vision of the iron-armored pig. Lin Yuan notices that the beast's vision is obstructed and quickly tells Smarty to use the quick attack, who in turn charges at high speed, saying his master did not even need to ask. Then he delivers several attacks with his sharp claws on the iron-armored pig's nose, making several cuts. But the creature manages to turn and hits the kitten, slightly dazed from the blow. Smarty wants to know if they won. While trembling, the MC says they did, and that they were incredible. But as soon as he finishes saying that, he begins to faint. Meanwhile, the iron-armored pig runs scared in another direction until suddenly it slams to a stop. A man in a wheelchair accompanied by a woman comments that he was wondering why things seemed strange around there and wants to know why there is an iron-armored pig in the park. The woman is surprised since she is seeing some feathers on the pig and wants to know if they are the MC's bird's feathers. Then she calls the old man and says she will leave the situation to him because she first needs to find little Li Yuan. The old man replies that it is fine, summons his beast, and with a sinister look apologizes to his creature for bothering it. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan opens his eyes, and as he walks through the place, he thinks it is the place he has been before again, because he has lost count of how long he has walked there since he first dreamed of it. But when he looks at the huge ring in front of him, he thinks it is already a little late, but still knows he needs to thank it for sharing spiritual power in a moment of crisis. At the same moment, the ring reacts, and the MC thinks the place seems to be about 40 to 50 square meters. So he wonders if that is the so-called internal space of a spiritual creature. Then, he looks at the bracelet on his wrist and asks if it is its ability. Lin Yuan can see that the bracelet on his wrist is called Mobius, a type of unknown spiritual creature that is still level 1 and whose quality is normal, but is of the spatial and mystical type. The true data are that it extracts information imperceptible to the naked eye, and that this digitized data can reveal truths not apparent at first glance. It also possesses the passive ability of mental calm, where the effect of the ability increases with the level of the spiritual creature, in addition to stabilizing the spirit and having a chance to resist negative effects. The MC thinks he has already seen what the true data ability can do, until he is surprised to see that it has an exclusive trait, because he knows that usually only those that reach bronze rank possess them, and that one of normal grade having an exclusive trait makes him wonder if it could be a legendary divine treasure or a fantasy race. This exclusive trait is locked, since first, the space inside Mobius can house spiritual creatures. Second, the initial level of a spiritual creature cannot exceed the level of Mobius when it is housed for the first time. Third, Mobius cannot level up on its own since it levels up as the housed spiritual creature levels up. And it will also acquire the initial ability of the housed spiritual creature. However, Mobius itself will not gain new abilities upon leveling up. And finally, every time Mobius advances to rank A, the number of spiritual creatures it can house increases by 1, but its leveling method remains the same. Lin Yuan becomes very confused about this, and begins wondering if it means he can make a contract with a level 1 spiritual beast of normal grade, and Mobius can only level up after he raises it. He also wants to know if to contract another one, he needs to raise a level 1 spiritual beast until it advances 1 level, which is level 10, because he knows that raising low-level spiritual beasts is already incredibly expensive. So he fears that at this pace, even someone with a fortune would run out of money in minutes. And he also knows how broke he is at the moment. However, the MC shakes his head and thinks that this is better than nothing because at least he can feel spiritual power now, and that maybe there is a chance things will get better in the future. Then Lin Yuan begins hearing a voice, someone calling a doctor and wanting to know if he said the MC suffered a mental shock and some weakness. Because half a day has passed and Lin Yuan still has not woken up, the MC recognizes the voice and concludes it is time to leave where he is. Then, while Smarty keeps slapping his paw on the MC's face, he slowly wakes up. When getting up, he smiles a little embarrassed and says he is fine, but wants to know why everyone is worried. The woman from before says that he finally woke up. The nurse emphasizes that the MC's aunt was very worried, but that she will run another test on him just as a precaution. Lin Yuan says he thinks that will not be necessary, but his aunt approaches, calls him, and says he was unconscious for almost 10 hours, and that if he is sick, he needs to seek treatment, because she thinks he does not want something like this to turn into a serious illness. So the MC lies back on the bed and agrees with her. Then he thinks that his aunt and uncle from the house next door always treated him and his little sister well, but he thinks he should not tell them about the contract with Mobius yet. The MC thinks this was expected from an elite-level creature, since it possesses a rare ability. After finishing the exam, the doctor says everything seems fine, but he will need to leave because his wife is waiting for him at home for dinner. The MC's aunt smiles and thanks the doctor. At that moment, a little creature appears with a bag saying that dinner is ready. The MC's aunt tells Lin Yuan that his uncle made the nutritious meal just for him, but emphasizes that if he does not like it, he does not need to eat it. While the MC says he would not dare not to eat the food, Smarty and Yin comment that the smell is great. Lin Yuan looks at his aunt and thinks that his uncle's terror rabbit has always been very mysterious because it is not as energetic as other terror rabbits. So he decides to take a look at the creature's status and sees that everything is unknown. So he is very surprised and reflects that the creature has 2 exclusive traits, and that apparently it does not seem to be a terror rabbit. After that, a few days pass, and someone is running. It is the MC who looks very tired, and right after that, he stops and thinks he has been running for an hour every day since leaving the hospital, but it still seems too intense because he knows he has no spiritual chi and therefore had to build his body from a young age, but that he probably should give up combat professions and consider a different life. At that moment, the MC's uncle and aunt appear, and he wants to know if Lin Yuan decided to wake up early to train. The MC smiles and says he is trying to stay healthy. Then Lin Yuan sees the status of the bone-devouring worm on his uncle, which is at platinum rank or higher, and whose effect causes a biological toxicity elemental mental curse. He then reflects that the creature wraps itself around the flesh and sacrifices itself to form a bone-devouring gangrene. and that for his uncle to be capable of sealing such a potent toxin in his leg for years, he thinks his level must be that of at least a king-grade spiritual chi professional, so he considers that if that is the case, the Fear Lion might be like his uncle, gravely wounded and assuming the form it is in to recover. As they leave, the MC's aunt asks him to remember to call if he needs anything. The MC tells them not to worry. Then he thinks that they have taken care of his little sister and him all this time, and that if only there were a way to heal his uncle's injury. Upon returning home, he sees the status of the green creeper plant and is surprised because it now has elite quality and was only normal quality the previous day. With this, he concludes that his spiritual chi is not just leaking but is actually channeling into spiritual creatures, allowing them to absorb it and evolve. Lin Yuan places his hand on the plant, and while releasing a bit of his power, he thinks he needs to try again, because he will increase the difficulty this time and go straight to the blonde lily of the healing type. It doesn't take long, and he succeeds. Now the green creeper is a blonde lily of elite level with normal quality, and it possesses the healing ability which recovers external wounds. The fragrance has a volatile, fresh herbal aroma that can relieve tension. Lin Yuan becomes excited and thinks that with the plant's ability, he believes it is now at least 10 times more valuable. Then he shouts, telling Smarty and Yin to stop sleeping and get up to see what he just did. While the kitten jumps into the MC's arms, the bird comments that he thinks they leveled up too. Now Smarty is level 2 and has the precise memory ability which allows him to remember every detail accurately when memorizing things. The kitten says he used to remember 1 piece of roasted pork, but now he can remember 30. Yin is now level 3, and upon singing he comments that even his voice improved a lot. The MC quickly hugs Smarty and with eyes thinking about money, says he finally found his golden finger and that he thinks they have become rich. Yin wants to know what the hell that golden finger thing is, but Lin Yuan realizes that this is more than just getting rich because he knows that evolving a spiritual creature is incredibly difficult, since aside from the very few spiritual creatures that evolve naturally, most require a creator to use vast amounts of precious materials and spiritual medicines just to have a chance to evolve a spiritual creature that reached its threshold level. However, he knows he can do all of this alone, but he realizes this is an unbelievable ability and that countless people would kill for it. So one wrong move would be, as they say, the tallest tree catches the most wind, and knowing he still cannot protect himself, he needs to do everything to keep this secret from leaking. So he clenches his fist tightly and thinks that to use this ability safely, he needs to become a creator. He knows that using that profession as a front is the only way to stay safe long term, otherwise he will be begging to be targeted. While Yin brings the MC's phone, Smarty warns that his phone is ringing and that it is Xiao Shui. Lin Yuan thanks him and thinks it is time to contract his first spiritual creature. As soon as he answers, Xiao Shui comments that he hasn't called in 2 days but wants to know how the MC is feeling. The MC says he is feeling much better than before, and that he was even planning to clean the yard. Xiao Shui is surprised at what she just heard, then shouts that the MC has no spiritual chi to support him, then tells him to leave the yard alone until she gets home. Lin Yuan emphasizes that he is only tidying up a bit and that it is nothing major, so he thinks she does not need to worry because her older brother is not that weak, but wants to know if she remembers the promise they made where she must study hard at school and not waste her talent. Xiao Shui takes a deep breath and says she knows very well. After hanging up, she thinks she cannot disappoint her brother. Later in the classroom, the teacher is scolding the class and informing them that in the next 2 days they will contract their first spiritual creatures and that she does not need to emphasize how important this is. Although the quality and level of a spiritual creature are crucial, the spiritual chi professional's own level also affects their battle performance. She then stresses that for combat professions, the compatibility range also differs for each type, and that if they choose a spiritual creature that does not align with their own affinity, it will be very difficult to form a contract, and they may even suffer damage to their own mental power. The teacher also makes it clear that even for life-type professions like artisans or weavers, a person needs a deep and long-term understanding of spiritual creatures to be able to fuse spiritual materials, and that the class they will have will be aimed at training combat-type professionals, and therefore synergy is something they must consider very carefully. After the class ends and the students say goodbye to the teacher to leave, she asks Xiao Shui to wait a moment. Then she goes to her and asks if she does not want to reconsider the spiritual creature she is contracting because she is aware of her family's situation, but emphasizes that her talent is exceptional since the selection of the Federation's 100 children is approaching, and she cannot let such an opportunity pass. Xiao Shui only keeps her head down thinking about what to answer. Meanwhile, at the MC's house, he is very excited, shouting that he finally managed to improve 300 blonde lilies to elite grade, so he thinks this should be worth at least 20,000 Federation coins. And that with this, he also thinks he will be able to buy a high-level spiritual creature for his little sister, until he sees his phone ringing and that it is an unknown number. So he wonders if it could be a new customer, since the timing is perfect because he was almost closing for the day. When answering, he asks who it is, and suddenly the person calling shouts, wanting to know if he is the guardian responsible for Xiao Shui, and if he knows she is planning to contract a gray beetle, and that with such an incredible talent, how could she waste it like that? Lin Yuan knows that the gray beetle is a normal level spiritual creature that a person can buy for 200 coins. It is extremely aggressive, and its abilities are worthless. And basically, no one contracts them since they only serve as food for high-level insectivores. The person the MC is talking to on the phone is Xiao Shue's teacher, who keeps shouting that his sister's affinity covers all defense-type spiritual creatures, so she thinks there are probably only a few people in all of Violet Thorn City with that kind of talent. She then makes it clear that the MC must prepare an elite-level defense spiritual creature for Xiao Shu's first contract. Lin Yuan says he understands, thanks the teacher for her concern, and emphasizes that he will certainly send a suitable spiritual creature to the school in the next 2 days. But he thinks about the creature's elite grade, and that he needs to get at least 100,000 Federation coins. So he concludes that time is very short, and that he will need to improve all the green creeper plants he has there from normal grade to elite grade, and then sell them to obtain a high-level, defense-type spiritual creature for his little sister. After that, and already the next day, Lin Yuan looks like a zombie, thinking that finally, after an entire night of transmitting spiritual QI, he feels completely exhausted, but even so, he finished in time. He keeps in mind that the spiritual creature market is a suspicious place, and therefore thinks it's better to cover himself as a precaution. Then he asks Smarty if he is sure he wants to accompany him. The kitten comments that staying behind to guard the house doesn't work anymore, and that besides that haggling is one of the tasks of a 100-question monster. Lin Yuan thinks that his kitten became so stubborn and disobedient since he evolved. At that moment, a horse appears running and pulling a carriage, and the guy shouts saying that the attraction has arrived and that all passengers should wait behind the yellow line. Smarty gets confused and comments that the bus he is seeing looks a little different from the others he usually knows. The MC emphasizes that this is because he has been reading history books and not a modern transport guide. Since a century after the revival of spiritual QI, all kinds of spiritual creatures replaced some of the old locomotion machines. After getting on the bus, the driver asks everyone to hold on tight. That said, the spiritual creature pulling the bus bursts forward at full speed, and if the MC doesn't hold the kitten, he would go flying along the way. Then the driver wants to know if Lin Yuan is also going to the spiritual creature market because he thinks he chose a good day for it. The MC is intrigued and asks why, and if by any chance there is a new stock of creatures. The driver comments that apparently the boy didn't see the news. So he says that a few days ago, a dimensional rift opened about 48 kilometers from Xia County, and the guards of Violet Thorn City spent 2 whole days and nights hunting all the invasive insects that came out in droves to control the situation, and that he also heard that the city guard squad is still waiting nearby. Lin Yuan is very surprised to know, but the driver continues saying that the rift opened right next to a spiritual creature breeding base, and that the creatures were killed or injured, and some of the employees who escaped are selling the remaining wounded monsters at the market. Smarty concludes that that's how the armored pig escaped and appeared in the park the other day. The driver emphasizes that it was especially the armored pigs, and that several of them escaped. He also says that he managed to buy a really cheap one the day before, and as soon as it was placed on the table, his whole family feasted on it. The MC thinks the driver is quite impressive, but asks him to drop them off at the closest intersection to the stall ahead. Then thinks this is great, because severely injured and disabled spiritual creatures definitely won't be very expensive. After that, the MC arrives at the place he asked for. Smarty asks the MC to stay calm, and asks what kind of spiritual creature they are going to buy and what the budget would be. Lin Yuan replies that it will be an elite-level defensive spiritual creature, but a little discouraged. He says that the budget will be around at least 100,000 Federation coins. Smarty widens his eyes in surprise, and comments that the MC has only less than 20,000 in savings. Lin Yuan says that this is why they will exchange the green creepers and the blonde lilies he improved the night before. Smarty comments that he thinks someone will definitely take advantage of them. since he knows that a normal quality green creeper costs between 1,500 and 3,000, which means that the amount they have there will still fall short in the end. Lin Yuan notices a strange reaction from some plants he is observing, and wonders if they are calling him because now he can clearly feel the instinctive approach and rejection of other spiritual creatures. Then he reflects that the lighter the glow, the friendlier the aura, and that apparently the clear pond carps, hell orchids, snow lilies, and thousand-hand jade, judging by the aura, make him question whether his affinity range is really that wide, since he knows he has high affinity for healing and support types, and that plant-type spiritual creatures are instinctively drawn to him. His sister's affinity is for defensive types. Then the MC hears Smarty asking him to look to the side and see something since he is negotiating a creature with the seller, who makes it clear that his final offer is 60,000. But the kitten continues bargaining and gives a counteroffer of 20,000. Lin Yuan sees that the creature his kitten is bargaining for is an elite-level sturdy skin rabbit of the defensive type, just what his sister needs. The rabbit has a hardened skin ability that creates a resilient keratinized shield over its skin to block damage. The MC feels embarrassed, apologizes to the seller, and explains that his 100-question beast is a bit reckless sometimes. Smarty wants to know what the MC is doing because he thinks that if he had continued negotiating, he could have managed to buy the rabbit for 20,000. After that, Lin Yuan quietly asks Smarty if he has never heard of price checking. Then they start walking around the place and soon see a normal grade land turtle of the defensive type. The creature had an ability that allowed it to increase its body size, retracting its head and limbs into its shell to help block damage. Lin Yuan comments that the grade is too low and that he won't have time to evolve the creature's level in time. Then, they observe an elite grade phantom claw fox of the defensive type, which has the rolling ability allowing it to curl its body into an arc and move by rolling, blocking damage with its spiritual pack sound. Lin Yuan comments that the fox is not very different from the sturdy skin rabbit, while Smarty wants to know how that creature could protect Xiao Shui while being so timid. As they walk around again, Smarty wants to know if they shouldn't reconsider buying the sturdy skin rabbit. Lin Yuan replies that he thinks it's better to keep looking because he still needs to think about it. After walking a bit, the MC stops and thinks that after seeing the options, he believes what he is seeing may be what he is looking for. Then he sees the status of the elite grade curled horned sheep of the rock type, which has the parry ability where the creature uses its large horns to block and defend, as well as the horn attack ability, which strikes a target with its large vibrating horns, causing paralysis through high-frequency vibrations. Lin Yuan thinks it is a very good creature because it even has a spiritual beast control ability. Thus, he becomes excited, calls the seller, and asks if he is willing to close the deal for the curled horned sheep. The seller asks the MC to wait a moment because he needs to call his wife to confirm. While the seller speaks with his wife on the phone, Smarty comments to the MC that he checked the prices online the previous night and that a curled horned sheep costs only about 50,000, so he thinks that even a rare one would cost at most 90,000. Lin Yuan explains that this is called showing sincerity and that he thinks his kitten is still very inexperienced when it comes to negotiation. The seller informs that the sheep will cost 120,000 Federation coins. The MC is outraged and thinks this is clearly a robbery. Then he comments that he doesn't think there is any other defensive spiritual creature there. Smarty tries to cheer him up, saying that if it comes to that, he thinks he will have to pay more for the curled horn sheep since it is for Xiao Shui, until the MC hears a seller telling several people that he thanks everyone for their preference over the last few days, and that the spiritual beast meat is sold out, so he apologizes to everyone who missed the opportunity. Someone in the crowd comments that they are seeing the seller still has some severely wounded spiritual beasts. Lin Yuan's eyes sparkle upon hearing this, and Smarty calls him and comments that this is not the time for him to think about stewed pork. The seller comments that he feels very sorry for the poor creatures he has inside, and that he also feels sorry for making everyone wait, but he emphasizes that if they are interested, they can take a look inside since only 3 remain. Lin Yuan hears people wanting to know if the seller is joking because how will they buy the creatures to heal them since they think most there will not have money to hire a breeder. As soon as the MC goes to the seller, he comments that it is too late and informs that the meat is gone. But Lin Yuan says he is not there to buy meat because he would like to see the spiritual beasts he has inside. Then he thinks that apparently the seller seems quite unstable and considers that if he tries to negotiate with him now, he will probably be kicked out immediately. However, he keeps in mind that now it is different and quickly uses Mobius's calm mind ability. And as soon as the ability activates, Lin Yuan notices the seller seems much calmer, who then calls the MC and points out that he is not much older than him, so he suggests that he call him Yang, but but he informs that there are 3 severely injured spiritual creatures inside and that he will take the MC to see them. As soon as they enter inside, the seller says that as the MC can see, they are 2 web-casting spiders and that they even seem healthy enough from the front, but their abdomens were torn open, so he thinks that at this rate they will not last more than 2 days. Lin Yuan sees that the spiritual creatures are venom-type web-casting spiders, which possess the thread-casting ability that spits sharp, barely visible silk threads along its path, and the venom web ability, which launches a toxin-filled web forward. The MC keeps in mind that if it weren't for the dimensional rift, they would have become bronze-class spiritual creatures in a short time. Then, he comments to the seller that if the spiders didn't have wounds, he thinks they would probably be sold for 300,000 Federation coins. The seller emphasizes that it would be more than that, and explains that support-type spiritual creatures with control and poison abilities can be sold for an even higher price. But at the moment, he thinks he would be lucky to get 150,000 Federation coins for both together. Lin Yuan calls the seller Yang and says he would like to buy both webcasting spiders, but informs that he does not have enough money on him. So he explains that he was thinking if he could trade some spiritual creatures for them. Yang says that to be honest with the MC, he thinks that after finishing with the batch he has there, he is planning to open another spiritual creature breeding base and start from scratch, so he thinks he may not necessarily need the spiritual creatures he is being offered for trade. Lin Yuan smiles and asks the seller what he thinks. If the creatures in question were elite green creepers, Yang wants to know if the boy truly wants to trade elite green creepers and what the quality of his vines is. Lin Yuan makes it very clear that he has full confidence in their quality, and that if needed, the seller can go to his house and inspect them first. Yang thinks about these green creepers since he knows that these seedlings are priceless, because anyone who wants to sell them usually asks double the market price. Then he shows the last spiritual creature remaining there, which is an elite-grade stone ox rhino of the earth type. It possesses 2 abilities. The first is Stone Horns, which coats its horns with stone and launches a reckless and self-sacrificing attack. The second ability is Sacrifice, which means when its contractor is hurt, it voluntarily takes part of the damage. The MC immediately becomes very excited and wants to know how much seller Yang is asking for the rhino, since he knows it is an epic quality creature about to reach bronze rank, and also knows it is a defensive type perfect for his little sister. The seller wants to know if the MC is really serious because the creature's condition is not good at all. Lin Yuan asks the seller if he accepts 200,000 Federation coins. He is very surprised and asks if the MC by any chance has some way to heal the Stone Ox Rhino, but he wonders if the boy might have a breeder supporting him. Then the seller wants to know if the MC is saying he will take all 3 creatures, and if he wants to trade the elite green creepers for them. Lin Yuan crosses his arms, laughs, and asks Mr. Yang to trust him because he thinks the green creepers will not disappoint him. The seller, while rummaging through his bag, says it is fine and that he believes the MC, but emphasizes that since he is taking the 3 spiritual creatures, he can pack up his stall, then informs that they will leave soon to see the green creepers. Thus, he grabs an artifact and emphasizes that thankfully, he has a spiritual lockbox there because he will just pack the Stone Ox Rhino and the web-casting spiders and take them together. That said, he throws the box, and as soon as it enlarges, Yang says it is a spiritual lockbox, a patented invention of Ostrich Logistics, which can store spiritual creatures inside it and whose size adapts to the box, while the weight is nullified, making them light and easy to carry. Smarty is very impressed with the artifact and asks if something like that really exists and why they never used one before. Lin Yuan takes a deep breath and answers that it is because his family never had spare money for something like that before. After the Stone Ox Rhino is pulled inside, Smarty wants to know if the seller actually managed to put the creature inside. Yang emphasizes that the spiritual lockbox is bronze class, but he fears the Ox Rhino will never have a chance to evolve into a spiritual creature of the same level. Then he summons his bronze-level tumor-crowned fire lizard, which possesses the Fang discard ability that during a bite allows it to detach its fangs, leaving them embedded in the target's body, and the death roll ability, which after biting a target makes it spin and rotate its body using its mouth as a pivot to tear flesh and bone. In addition, it has the exclusive trait Burning Venom, where proliferating venom glands connect to the salivary glands, infusing its saliva with a burning toxin. While the lizard nuzzles the seller, he wants to know what the MC thinks of his spiritual creature. Lin Yuan is very impressed, and while moving around observing the fire lizard, he comments that it really is a bronze-level spiritual creature, and that the burning venom trait grants a powerful offensive advantage. Then he thinks it is a rare opportunity to observe a bronze rank up close. The seller thinks the boy is quite amazing, because he seems to have mastered the specialized knowledge of a spiritual creature researcher at such a young age. So he thinks that if he is not a natural prodigy, he must have a master guiding him, until the seller turns around when he hears someone calling him. Several angry people appear wanting to know what his big idea is, summoning the fire lizard out of nowhere because their creatures got very scared. Yang becomes a bit embarrassed, apologizes, and says he is already leaving. Thus, after everyone mounts the fire lizard, the seller asks everyone to hold on tight. That said, the spiritual creature bursts forward at full speed. Lin Yuan tries to hold on at all costs and thinks the lizard is going very fast, even faster than a carriage-pulling mule. After arriving at the MC's house, the seller comments that the place is closer than he thought. Then Yang says the MC is in great shape because most people cannot avoid feeling nauseous the first time they ride a creature like his. But he emphasizes that this is still nothing, because if a person rides a flying spiritual creature and looks at the world from above, that will be real excitement. Lin Yuan says he should be thanking him since it is his first time riding a spiritual creature with a police patent, then makes it clear that his place is a bit simple. Yang begins noticing the surroundings and thinks the place does not look like somewhere a breeder would live in seclusion, and that if the MC's green creepers are not up to par, he thinks that unfortunately, friendship is friendship but business is separate, until he becomes very surprised because he is seeing several green creepers in front of him. So he thinks there is definitely a breeder involved, because he knows it is impossible to cultivate elite-level green creepers of such quality without a breeder's help. Yang, still very impressed with the plants, says that what he is seeing is far beyond his expectations, because the green creepers are already premium quality, a rare item that few merchants could find on Starnet. Lin Yuan says that before the green creepers evolved, he added energy ore to the soil, so their root systems are very well developed, and he definitely does not think there are any problems with their quality. When breaking a piece, the seller realizes the sap of the cutting is so rich, so he thinks the boy was not exaggerating. Then he remembers a time when he was questioned for not even managing to prepare heavenly treasures, and for wanting to visit a master breeder. Thus, he reflects that to obtain a breeder's help, a person must offer them the spiritual materials they like, but he knows that at his level he has no way to obtain such materials. However, he considers that if he can win the MC's favor, he thinks things will be very different. Lin Yuan wants to know if the seller is satisfied with the green creepers. He replies that he is very satisfied and that they can already talk about the price. That said, he makes it clear that to be honest, the MC's plants are all top quality, and they would sell like water on Starnet for 30,000 units. So his best offer is 33,000 per pot, and he will take 100 pots, and therefore wants to know how many the MC has available. Smarty is completely shocked to hear that the seller wants to take 100 pots, and immediately starts calculating how much that will be. Lin Yuan replies that he definitely has the 100 pots there, but thinks he needs a large amount to raise his spiritual QI professional level, and the green creepers will be the most convenient method. Yang keeps in mind that the transaction is not small, but even so, the MC appears completely calm and unshakable, so he considers that maybe he is used to big deals, but judging by his common clothes and his small shop, thinks it must be a smokescreen set up by the person supporting him. Then the seller wants to know how many days the MC will need to prepare the goods. Lin Yuan replies that he will need 7 days, but thinks that it will be 1 hour per pot plus 2 days to deliver the spiritual creatures to his sister, and considering rest time 7 days is the absolute limit, Yang starts crying and thinking that this is a blessing in disguise because his luck has finally changed, and he thinks it is even a divine connection. Thus, the MC asks the seller to pick up the green creepers in 7 days. Yang replies that it is fine, but wants to know if the boy is sure he does not want a deposit for the 70+ remaining pots because he has the money with him. Lin Yuan laughs, says no, and thanks the seller, but emphasizes that they can settle the total amount when he returns to pick up the goods. Yang mounts his lizard and says he will return in 7 days. Lin Yuan replies that it is fine and thinks that now he needs to go to his most troublesome task. Then he goes to his backyard where the stone ox rhino is. Yin appears and immediately wants to know if the rhino will live with them. The MC makes it clear that he will first save the creature and that Smarty and Yin should step back. As he approaches the creature, he realizes it is already extremely weak, and therefore he needs to hurry. Then he places his hand on the beast, and slowly the rhino's wounds begin to heal. Lin Yuan is pleased to see it is working, but decides to try to speed things up. Then he intensifies his power even more over the creature, and the moment it is hit by the power, it lets out a huge roar, which even scares the MC, who wants to know what happened. A strange energy surrounds the rhino, and the MC wonders if it could be the obstacle to reaching the specialist level. After some time, Lin Yuan is very focused, hoping the creature can hold on so they can break the wall together. It does not take long before the barrier begins to crack, and soon after an explosion happens. Lin Yuan waits for the dust to settle, hoping it was a success, until he manages to evolve the creature into the iron-horned ox rhino, a species of spiritual creature from the giant horned family with bronze rank horns, and of the metal type. The rhino now possesses the metal horns ability, which coats its horns with reinforced metal to deliver a reckless and selfless attack, as well as the sacrifice ability, which means that when its contractor is injured, it actively absorbs part of the damage. Lin Yuan is surprised to see he can also choose an exclusive trait for the creature, which could be scaly skin that develops an armor-like layer of scales on the surface of the skin, made of the same material as the hide, tireless stride, which conserves energy during running, and finally pain siphon, which absorbs a portion of the damage received and converts it into vital force. The MC tries to decide which exclusive trait to choose because he knows two of them are very good. Then he begins imagining that a skill like tireless stride is completely useless for a defensive type spiritual creature. Then he reflects on scaly skin, which he thinks should create a relatively thick layer of scales on the creature's body, increasing defense, but he thinks the friction of the scales might cause some damage during a charge. And finally, the exclusive trait pain siphon, which allows the rhino to absorb part of the damage suffered and heal at the same time. Thus he concludes this makes such an ability perfect for a sturdy brute that begs to be hit, so he ends up choosing Pain Siphon and immediately thinks that if he uses the Metal Horns ability and Pain Siphon correctly to create a positive feedback cycle, it becomes less of a defensive type and more of a heavy offensive spiritual creature wearing defensive clothing. Lin Yuan gets excited thinking it is the first perfect spiritual creature for Xiao Shui and wonders who would dare go near his little sister. Smarty wants to know if that would not make Xiao Shui and the iron-horned ox rhino a Beauty and the Beast combination. The MC gives a slight smile and replies that he does not care because his little sister's safety is the most important thing. However, he goes to Smarty and asks if he is not a beast. Then he thinks it is exactly as he imagined, because not only did the iron-horned ox rhino level up, but his own spiritual power also increased. So he knows that the higher the level of the spiritual creature that evolves, the more spiritual power feedback he will receive, but that just making the ox rhino reach bronze level required almost all of his strength. So he wonders if a higher level breeder using all kinds of heavenly and earthly treasures could reach even higher levels. Smarty wants to know how the MC will send the enormous creature to Xiao Shui. Lin Yuan replies that it will be with Ostrich Logistics because he just earned some money, and since he is in a hurry, he placed an express flight order, and they will arrive there to pick it up very soon. The kitten gets excited, wanting to know if he will be able to fly like Yin. After that night falls, and in the Hui Yue Palace, someone is making a mixture with 3 portions of patchouli sprouts, 1 portion of submerged sea ebony, and 1 portion of platinum beast blood essence. A winged creature with something in its mouth flies over a flask, and an old man looks at the woman beside him and calls out to her, but is quickly interrupted by someone who tells the old man not to speak out of turn. The winged creature drops an ingredient into the flask, and a strong reaction begins to occur. Then a person makes a motion with their finger controlling a kind of liquid, and soon the place fills with a strange reddish smoke. The old man and the woman cover their faces and think that the single preparation process is producing immense pressure, and that they believe it is even pushing away both protective spiritual auras, and they quickly conclude that this must be what a 5-star creator is like. The person in question is the Moon Empress, one of the 3 5-star creators of the Radiant Federation, who then asks Sikong to summon the spiritual creature he wants to evolve. Sikong says, all right, he is a king-level expert. Ling Xiao, the Lady of Violet Thorn City, and also a king-level expert, comments that she had already told Sikong not to worry. The old man wastes no more time, thanks the Moon Empress, and immediately summons his spiritual creature that he wishes to evolve. The Empress makes a motion that causes the creature's spiritual aura to leave its body and move toward the flasks. Then, Sikong's creature collapses, trembling on the ground, and the old man wants to know what is happening. She replies that everything is fine, and explains that the creature is evolving to a legendary level, and that the old man only needs to fuse the will rune he comprehended with it, and it will evolve into a fantastic race. Sikong thanks the Moon Empress and makes it clear that he is willing to serve her like a loyal dog or horse, and that he would even cross fire and water and die 1,000 times for her. That said, his creature opens its eye and lets out a loud, shrill roar. At that moment, a very cute little spiritual creature opens its eyes because of the roar and looks angrily at Sikong's creature, which in turn feels the immense spiritual pressure of the little creature and trembles all over. The Moon Empress picks up her spiritual creature and says that Sikong crossing fire and water will not be necessary. However, she emphasizes that regarding the selection of creators, each promotion exam is held every 3 years, and he can only advance one level at a time. So she wants to know how they can select truly talented creators. That way, Sikong becomes worried and wants to know if she is suggesting that for the current creator exams, it will be possible to take the test for several consecutive levels. While petting her little creature, she replies that it will only be from level 1 to level 2, and that anyone who passes the level 1 creator exam in 2 hours will be exempt from the 3 lifestyle profession exams and can directly take the level 2 exam. Then, she orders him to go immediately and give the command. Sikong replies that he understands and will do so at once. Ling Xiao wants to know if this is why the Moon Empress wants to reform the system, since no exceptionally talented young person has appeared in the Federation's creator exams in recent years, and they cannot even comprehend a single will rune. She replies no, and makes it clear that this is merely a personal matter of hers, but emphasizes that as fellow 5-star creators, both the Lord of Bamboo and the Sovereign Chef accepted apprentices, and naturally she cannot fall behind those 2 old fools. Ling Xiao is very surprised and wonders if the Moon Empress will really accept an apprentice. Then the Empress says that besides that, the dimensional tide is approaching, and Violet Thorn City is the city with the most aberrant insect dimensional rifts. So she makes it clear that since Ling Xiao is the lady of the city, she must be diligent in her duties to protect the land and its people, because every rift must be guarded and no failures can occur. Ling Xiao asks the Empress to rest assured and emphasizes that as the lady of her city, she will forever be the foundation of Violet Thorn City. Meanwhile, the MC is flying at full speed atop a spiritual creature. The driver looks back and asks if the boy is all right, then warns that the flight will get smoother once they are above the clouds. A bit embarrassed, Lin Yuan says that everything is fine. Thus, the driver comments that the MC's 100-question beast is really lively, but emphasizes that it is a pity they are overloaded on the trip. Otherwise, he thinks they could have brought Smarty along. Lin Yuan remembers his kitten crying a lot and wanting to go along so he could fly like Yin before leaving, but he asked him to behave because he would bring something very tasty for him when he returned. Then, still a bit nauseous, he answers the driver that it is all right, because there will be many other chances. Then the driver comments that they have arrived and that the MC should take a look but not be afraid of the height. As they pass through the tall mountains, the driver says it is a famous and magnificent view near Violet Thorn City and wants to know if it is the MC's first time seeing it, since the moonlight is beautiful and bright, because he thinks it would be quite boring if it were completely dark. Lin Yuan, after observing around, becomes excited and says it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, until he is surprised to feel something condensing in the air of his consciousness, and immediately wonders if it could be a will rune. Guys, a mini lesson from Xiao Shui for you. A will rune is the essence of a certain attribute that a spiritual QI professional comprehends from the natural world and can be understood as a necessary item to cultivate a fantastic race. Lin Yuan looks closely into his mind and concludes there is no mistake, since it is a will rune representing mountains and rivers and the types of spiritual creatures it is suited for. However, he is interrupted by the driver who wants to know if he is all right. The MC replies that he is fine, because they have been flying through the mountains for a while, but wants to know how long until they reach Violet Thorn City. The driver says probably by morning. Lin Yuan becomes confused and asks if they should not have arrived before dawn. The driver explains, it is because the MC had to come along and got sick at the beginning, so he had to slow down, still visibly nauseous. Lin Yuan asks the driver not to worry about that anymore and to go full speed. The next day at Xiao Shui's school, she is walking among the students and hears some wondering if they should not be contracting spiritual creatures that day and why they are going to the training field, until someone answers that it seems the schedule has changed. Right after the contracting of spiritual creatures, there will be a practical combat class, since they heard it is because of the selection for the 100 children of Violet Thorn City, and all the academic year course schedules were moved forward just to select the truly talented people. After everyone gathers, a guy says that the session they are in will be the practical combat class for the 3rd year, and also serves as the first practical combat exercise for the 1st year combat class. Then he makes it clear that in moments after the students have formed their contracts, they will be paired with 3rd year students for practice battles, according to the numbers they draw, so they can become familiar with their spiritual beast's abilities. A blonde girl tells Xiao Shui She is very nervous knowing she will have to fight third-year students and wants to know if she is really going to contract a gray beetle. Xiaoxue looks down and seeing a beetle inside a capsule, replies yes. After some time of practice battle, the instructor announces that in the 8th training battle drawn, the first year's gliding squirrel fled the battlefield, and thus the third year wins. The owner of the spiritual creature shouts that this is very unfair, because they just signed their contracts and already have to fight seniors who already have combat experience. So she thinks the situation is completely one-sided. Then she shouts to Xiaoxue and says that she will be next. And since she is the best in the class, she has to show what they are made of. The instructor wastes no time and announces they will begin the 9th battle, then wants to know if both sides are ready. The third-year guy, visibly relaxed, answers yes. The surrounding students are very surprised, wanting to know if it really is Feng Lixing, because they heard his family has a relative in the Breeders' Guild, and that he is even participating in the 100 Children of Violet Thorn City. Other students want to know if Xiaoxue is also not highly respected, but they heard there is a problem with her spiritual creature. Feng Lixing thinks that the latest news arrived from the Breeders' Guild the night before, and that now he faces a series of obstacles to increase his win rate. He knows that not only the 100 Children of Violet Thorn, but even becoming a disciple of the Empress of Light would not be out of the question, as he is on the verge of a meteoric rise. And carefully observing Xiaoxue, he reflects that he also heard she plans to contract a gray beetle, so he knows that in that case, she has no chance of winning, and that if she must blame someone, he thinks she should blame the unfortunate circumstances of her family for wasting her talent. Xiaoxue looks at the beetle in her hand, and thinks that even if she only has it, she cannot simply give up. Thus she shouts, telling the instructor she is ready, but someone begins calling her. As soon as she turns, she sees the teacher pulling a creature. The teacher, as she approaches, says that what she has there is the best she can do, and says that the yellow-spotted dog is at least elite, since she thinks Xiaoxue cannot waste her talent with a gray beetle. Then a huge bird flies over the test site, and someone jumps off the creature, shouting and asking Xiaoxue to wait a moment. It is the MC who, upon landing, thanks the teacher for her kindness, but says he brought his little sister's spiritual creature. Lin Yuan goes to Xiaoxue and says thankfully he arrived in time, then asks her to form a contract with what is inside the box and says she can trust him. The teacher wants to know if she can really trust the MC, because if not, she can try the yellow-spotted dog, although it is not very obedient. At that moment, Feng Lixing starts laughing and says it is all right, because he thinks it does not matter what spiritual creature it is. Neither Xiaoxue nor Lin Yuan likes hearing that at all. Feng Lixing continues saying that whether it is a gray beetle, a yellow-spotted dog, or anything else, none of them can beat his Force King beetle, which he raised since youth. That said, he summons his powerful bronze-level creature, which possesses superior quality abilities. The Giant Horn Ram ability, which concentrates power in the giant horn on its head for a reckless and selfless charge, and the Brave Charge ability, which increases its power by 50% when performing a charge attack. Its exclusive trait is Insect Observation, which allows the Force King beetle to see through the camouflage of spiritual creatures below the bronze rank. The teacher is very surprised and says she thinks not even a yellow-spotted dog could withstand a single blow from Feng Lixing's creature. After taking the artifact from her brother, Xiaoxue wants to know if it is a bronze-class spiritual lockbox, because she knows her family has no money for such a thing. Lin Yuan goes to her and asks her not to think too much, since she should focus on the task at hand first because he is sure she can do it. Xiaoxue firmly grips the box and tells her brother she will be fine, and as the spiritual lockbox begins to react, she thinks she will not let her brother's efforts be wasted. Thus, she manages to form the contract with the spiritual creature inside the box, which is the iron-horned ox rhino that immediately surprises everyone around with its size. Feng Lixing says her entrance was quite impressive, but emphasizes that he fears she does not understand the advantage that combat experience gives a combat professional. So he thinks it is a pity the huge creature her family bankrupted themselves to obtain. Xiaoxue makes it clear to Feng Lixing that he will pay for those words, then orders her creature to use the Iron Horn skill. The teacher is very pleased to see that the spiritual creature the MC brought is an iron-horned ox rhino, because she knows it can be considered the best of the best among bronze-level defensive spiritual creatures, and its horn is worth 700,000 Federation coins. Lin Yuan gives an awkward laugh and says the teacher should not evaluate the creature purely based on money. She replies that it is a professional habit for a spiritual creature analyst. While the battle between the two beasts unfolds, Feng Lixing laughs and says that her iron-horned ox rhino is only a defensive spiritual creature, so he wants to know how Xiao Xue can attack so recklessly. Then, he shouts that he will show her the fighting power of a spiritual creature with great assault strength. Thus, he orders his beetle to use the giant ram horn ability. Xiao Xue uses her spiritual QI and orders the ox rhino to hold its position and stand firm. Feng Lixing realizes it was very close to knocking Xiao Xue's creature out of the arena, so he thinks that being able to use spiritual QI to support a spiritual beast so soon after the initial contract means Xiao Xue is truly talented. The teacher is frightened and comments that she is glad Xiao Xue's creature was not pushed directly out of the field since she thinks Xiao Xue was very reckless because she attacked just because she was provoked a little, and that therefore she still lacks combat experience. Lin Yuan thinks that is not it, because if his little sister became familiar with the iron-horned ox rhino's abilities at the moment she contracted it, then he thinks attacking immediately is a tactic to surprise the enemy. While the Force King beetle circles the ox rhino at high speed, the students wonder if the beetle acting like that would not be useless. Feng Lixing hears them and thinks they are all idiots because he knows what it really means for a powerful attack-type spiritual creature to move so fast, since it is obviously to find the perfect opportunity to deliver a fatal blow. Then he shouts, calling Xiao Xue, and asks if she can imagine what is about to happen. As soon as he spots an opening, the powerful Force King beetle strikes the ox rhino. Xiao Xue, while waiting for the dust to settle from the attack her creature took, can only hope that the ox rhino is all right. The students are also impressed by the powerful, massive attack of Feng Lixing's Force King beetle and think that not even the huge ox rhino could withstand it. The teacher yells that she knows that even if Xiao Xue's spiritual creature is famous for its iron skin, and even if Xiao Xue is doing her best to channel spiritual QI to help it stabilize, even if it resists the first blow, she thinks it will be worn down by the constant attack throughout the battle. As the dust begins to settle, the teacher continues saying that making a third-year student fight a freshman in a practical match is simply unfair. The MC thinks it is still fine, since he has in mind that the skill chosen for the ox rhino was precisely for this type of situation. Thus, Xiao Xue yells, warning her spiritual creature that this is the moment. With that, the creature's exclusive pain siphon trait is activated. The students do not understand what just happened, since the spiritual QI around the ox rhino changed, and its wounds are healing. The teacher becomes excited when noticing that it is the pain siphon, because she knows that this exclusive trait can absorb part of the damage received and convert it into vitality. Lin Yuan is pleased, thinking that this was already expected from his little sister, who even in her first practical combat and the first time she sees an ox rhino, can still control the situation and seize the opportunity. Feng Lixing cannot believe it and comments that even if Xiao Xue's creature has iron skin, it is just a slightly tougher punching bag. So he asks his Force King beetle to continue the attacks non-stop. Thus, his spiritual creature begins to unleash countless attacks while the ox rhino keeps firmly enduring the blows it is taking. The students find this amazing because they can see that the strength of Xiao Xue's spiritual creature did not decrease at all after so many hits. However, the teacher finds something strange and quickly turns to the MC, wanting to know if the iron-horned ox rhino he chose has no counterattack skill and why Xiao Xue is just taking blows without retaliating. Lin Yuan feels a bit embarrassed and asks the teacher to stop being so impatient. Then, he comments that she herself had said that his little sister had affinity with defense-type spiritual creatures, so he thinks she must have her own plan. Feng Lixing completely loses his mind and yells, ordering his Force King beetle to use the giant horned ram skill with full power. Thus, the creature charges with everything toward the huge ox rhino. Xiao Xue notices an opening and yells for her spiritual creature to prepare and use its iron horns, which causes the stones below to shatter from the powerful attack. One of the students finds this strange and wants to know if that is really allowed. Lin Yuan thinks his sister is doing very well by adapting to the terrain. Feng Lixing becomes even more irritated and comments that she is only resorting to cheap tricks, then once again asks his beetle to crush the ox rhino. The creature completely destroys the huge rocks that were in its way, but Xiao Xue keeps telling her spiritual creature to hold firm and use the iron horn skill, and both creatures collide with their attacks. The students wonder if the ox rhino really resisted the impact clash, but upon seeing them in an intense and fierce strength battle, they want to know why it seems they are in balance, since the Force King beetle clearly had the advantage. The teacher asks the students to pay attention and explains that in reality, it is because the Force King beetle's skill, the giant horned ram, is a self-sacrifice attack that disregards its own injuries, and that it seems that when facing the ox rhino's defense, each attack also caused some damage to the beetle itself. Besides that, The Force King beetle was probably raised especially according to student Feng's preferences, seeking only maximum attack power and precise attack blocking. Therefore, he thinks the possibility of his attack being blocked by a spiritual creature of the same level was ignored. Lin Yuan keeps in mind that this high attack and high agility training method the teacher just explained aims to gain suppression power in a duel and end the battle quickly, but he also knows that if the person cannot defeat the opponent quickly, a major reversal can happen. And at that moment, that is exactly what happens, where the Ox Rhino begins to pressure Feng Lixing's Force King beetle, and the students quickly start commenting that it seems luck is on Xiao Xue's side. The teacher hears this and immediately makes it clear that it is not luck, then emphasizes that although both are spiritual creatures, when it comes to a prolonged strength battle, the body balance of an insect-type spiritual creature simply cannot compare to that of an iron-horned ox rhino. She also says that the mental state of the contractor affects the condition of their creature, and that everything she just said are all points from the textbook. Feng Lixing begins to panic, thinking that a mere freshman who not only contracted a copper-level spiritual creature, but is currently blocking the attack of a powerful attack-type spiritual creature with a defense type, then thinks that if that is the case, he will no longer mind since this is normal in practical combat. Then he asks his beetle to take some distance and attack Xiao Xue directly from the other side. Thus, the beetle jumps back, starts spinning, and changes its trajectory heading towards Xiao Xue. The teacher becomes worried and yells that this is against the rules. However, Xiao Xue remains focused and continues asking her spiritual creature to use the iron horn skill on the ground. With this, a huge stone pillar rises from the ground, blocking the beetle's attack and throwing it far away. But Feng Lixing's creature ends up falling outside the arena mark, and he, in turn, cannot believe he ended up losing. The instructor announces that the winner of the 9th battle is Xiao Xue, and all the surrounding students go wild with the result. The teacher becomes excited and comments that apparently the repeated use of the iron horn skill helped accumulate enough stones on the field, making the iron horn strong enough to flip the Force King beetle, and that this was already expected from the student in whom she has great hopes. She also comments that the MC did not do badly at all, for she did not expect him to get his hands on such a good spiritual creature. Xiao Xue runs to her brother and he congratulates his little sister on the beautiful victory. Curious about something, she starts pounding on her brother's chest, wanting to know where he got the money and if by any chance he sold their family shop. Lin Yuan asks her to calm down first and says that everything is fine at the moment because business is going well. The teacher comments that she thinks she should not interrupt the siblings' moment, but points out that time is short and she will be brief. Then she says that with Xiao Xue's talent, the school plans to recommend her to directly participate in the preliminary selection of the 100 Children of the Violet Thorn. The MC comments that the teacher had already mentioned that before. She continues saying that the selection of the 100 Children of the Violet Thorn is the most basic regional selection, since the final goal is to qualify for the selection of the 100 Children of the Radiant Federation, which is the true high-level national competition. But she emphasizes that although Xiao Xue is only a first-year high school student, her talent is enough to be selected for the preliminaries of the 100 Children of the Violet Thorn, and the Academy's educational resources will also be fully dedicated to her, and she will certainly grow very quickly. Lin Yuan thanks the teacher for taking care of his little sister all this time, but asks her not to worry, because he will also dedicate all his effort to Xiao Xue's spiritual creatures and resources from now on. The teacher tells Xiao Xue that if she does not have class later, she should show her brother the school. Lin Yuan calls the teacher and asks what she will do with the yellow-spotted dog. She replies that everything will be fine because she thinks she will raise it herself. After some time while they walk, the MC is commenting to his sister that he already said he can feel spiritual QI now, so he wants to know what else she needs him to show, and if by any chance she does not believe in her brother. Xiao Xue emphasizes that she needs to see it with her own eyes to be relieved, and she also thinks the iron-horned ox rhino must have been very expensive. Lin Yuan takes his phone and shows the balance in his account to his sister, who is completely shocked, wanting to know if he really made money. The MC says that after his spiritual QI recovered, he discovered he has some talent as a creator, so he accepted a job in that field and earned some money. Then he makes it clear that his sister only needs to focus on her studies, participate in the selections, and obtain a good ranking, and that she will not need to work part-time to support the family since her brother is also preparing to take the creator certification exam. After saying that, he calls her to eat something delicious to celebrate her victory. Meanwhile, the teacher is feeling awkward, wanting to know if the yellow-spotted dog eats meat buns. Later, someone is flying on the transport bird. It is the MC who keeps in mind that his little sister's studies are going well and that he also needs to work harder. After all, he knows the exams are not that easy. He also knows he needs to buy introductory books on spiritual creature research and spiritual material analysis later, and thinks there should be no problem asking Smarty for help, since during the practical combat he watched, although Xiao Shuis only seized the opportunity because of the damage reflection mechanic of the skill, the stable and sufficient amount of spiritual QI was the cornerstone of her victory. But at the moment, his own amount of spiritual QI is not even enough to be considered a true spiritual QI professional. Then he looks at the bracelet hidden on his wrist and thinks that if he wants to level up Mobius, the exclusive trait of its spirit lock has very strict conditions. Therefore, he wonders if he will really have to start from normal grade level 1. At that moment, the huge bird increases its speed and the MC immediately wants to know why. The driver turns around and wants to know if the boy is joking because he was already late when he dropped him off at the school. So, if he does not show the maximum speed of the black-winged wind falcon, he thinks he will get a bad rating. Lin Yuan comments that he still has things to buy. The driver says it is all the same because he can just place an order on Starnet and Ostrich Logistics will deliver on the same day. After some travel time, as soon as they arrive, the falcon is passed out from exhaustion. Lin Yuan wants to know if the creature will be okay. The driver asks the MC not to worry because it is nothing serious. Then he emphasizes that the trip has reached a successful conclusion and everything the MC wanted has been delivered, so he asks him to remember to give a good rating. Lin Yuan comments that he will rate him well and thanks him for the hard work. Looking at the things in front of him, the MC thinks everything was very fast since buying online is truly the best option in the era they live in. But he knows he needs to set up an online shop and that in the future, he might not even need to go to the spiritual creature market. Then he opens the door and yells, calling Smarty and Yin. They come running, and Yin wants to know what delayed the MC so much. Smarty, with watery eyes, comments that they missed him. However, he suddenly slams to a stop, saying that this is not right. And while Yin hugs the MC affectionately, Smarty becomes nervous and says he does not care about him. Yin asks Smarty not to be angry and wonders if the MC did not take him flying all day. Lin Yuan tries to calm the kitten, saying that next time, he will definitely take him. Smarty makes it clear that he has every right to stay angry for 2 days because not even cooked pork will cheer him up. While taking something out of his pocket, Lin Yuan thinks that his kitten is always so childish, but he knows he was already prepared for this. So he takes a canned cat food and, with a bizarre expression, calls Smarty and says it is an apology gift he specially ordered for him. The kitten drools from the smell he is sensing and comments that he cannot resist something like that, but makes it clear that it is not that he is no longer angry, he just shortened the duration of his anger. While the kitten devours the food, Yin wants to know if he will also get something. Lin Yuan takes an elite green creeper and says it will be exclusive for Yin and that it will be his personal feed from now on. Then, Smarty wants to know if the MC is not going to eat. He picks up a box and says they will eat first because he needs to organize the goods. After arranging all the green creepers, the MC takes a deep breath and comments that he really did not expect there to be so many, until Yen finds something strange in one of them and says there seems to be a different plant among the others. Lin Yuan picks up a card that says, if you buy 100 green creeper pots, you receive a blonde lily of the same quality for free. So he wants to know if they have this type of sales promotion. Then he remembers the information about the blonde lily and immediately questions how he could have forgotten that since the spiritual creatures that serve him are healing type, support type, and plant type. So he becomes excited, lifts the blonde lily pot, and comments that it is a healing type spiritual creature that has a healing skill at normal grade. Then he quickly goes up the stairs and asks Smarty and Yin to stay down there taking care of the other plants. After arriving in the room, he puts the pot on a table, and while stretching, thinks that it is time to try something. Thus, he activates his exclusive spirit lock skill. However, he knows that he has not rested in a long time, and that his mental power is not in its best state. But even so, he knows that once the bow is drawn, the arrow cannot be diverted. With that, he manages to make his contract with the plant, and the spirit lock is completed. Lin Yuan looks at his bracelet and notices that unlike before, there is no drain on his mental power. So he knows that as long as he continues injecting spiritual QI, he can start chain leveling up next. 1 hour later, the MC manages to upgrade the blonde lily to elite grade and legendary quality, possessing the healing skill that recovers external injuries. Very tired, he takes a deep breath and thinks that he finally managed to level up, Then he looks at Mobius's status and notices that the species of the spiritual creature remains unknown. But now, Mobius's level is elite and legendary quality, the skills remain the same, as well as the exclusive trait. However, as the MC is surprised to see his rank increase, he begins to be pulled into Mobius's bracelet. Then he immediately wonders if the place he is in is the spiritual space of Mobius's lock, because it seems to be twice the size of last time, until he hears a voice asking if he can hear. Lin Yuan turns around and replies that he can hear him loud and clear, and that it has been a while since he last saw him. Another very quick mini lesson from Xiao Shui. When a spiritual QI professional forms a contract with a spiritual creature, he consumes mental power, and a person can contract 2 to 3 spiritual creatures in their lifetime, with the known limit being 5. Spirit Lock is Mobius's exclusive trait, and it can achieve the same effect as forming a contract, but the contractor does not need to spend any extra mental power. Instead, the cost is borne by Mobius, and the number of spiritual creatures contracted is determined by how many times Mobius leveled up. And the price was that during the first 10 years after Lin Yuan made a contract with Mobius, his ability to sense spiritual QI was reset, and his mental power became abnormally weak. Then the MC wants to know if Mobius can speak now. He replies that reaching elite level is enough. Lin Yuan looks around and asks if that is the space of his exclusive skill. Mobius replies yes, and explains that it is the locked spiritual space, and since the MC is his contractor, he can modify it at will and store spiritual creatures. The MC looks ahead and immediately asks about the function of the pool he is seeing because he cannot feel any spiritual QI coming from it. Mobius says there is absolutely no spiritual QI and that it is just ordinary water. Lin Yuan becomes intrigued by this, but Mobius comments that water brings wealth, which leaves the MC even more confused. Still intrigued by the pool, Lin Yuan throws a stone into it, and upon seeing the reaction, he comments that even low-quality energy stones in flower pots can emit spiritual QI effectively. Mobius explains that in the external environment, it is inevitable that some spiritual QI dissipates, and the usage efficiency cannot reach 100%. But the locked spiritual space prevents spiritual QI from leaking, and if better energy stones are placed, the spiritual QI will become very rich over time. Lin Yuan wants to know if strengthening spiritual creatures there in the future would not result in much higher efficiency. Mobius responds yes, and emphasizes that as he advances in level, the usable time will also increase. However, the MC comments that all of this requires an enormous amount of Federation coins to maintain, and that even the lowest quality energy stones cannot be considered cheap, let alone the high quality ones. At that moment, Mobius begins to fade, and the MC wants to know what is wrong. He replies that it is nothing, but currently, he can only maintain a clear communication state for half an hour each day. So he says that the time is already running out. Before disappearing, Mobius makes it clear that he is the first spiritual creature the MC contracted, so he felt deeply the mental power and spiritual QI perception that the MC lost over the last 10 years. Lin Yuan says he does not mind that because he thinks these 10 years also allowed him to discover many things. After returning, the MC still thinks that beyond that, he now has hope again, and that the road ahead is still long. Thus, he stretches his wrist and comments that the challenge has only begun. However, for the MC, at this moment, sleep is the greatest force. And after a few days improving his powers and Smarty doing online research, on the umpteenth day of hard work, Lin Yuan looks out the window and comments that it seems to be quite late already. And while his little creatures sleep, he goes to them and covers them with a blanket. Then he leaves the room. While trying to improve some spiritual creatures, he thinks that the leveling exercise during his training period was not in vain because the 2 web shooting spiders there were also saved. 7 days later, the seller, Yang, arrives to pick up his goods. He keeps praying for God to bless him because he knows he is 3 times lucky and hopes the bet he made will allow him to turn his life around. But before knocking on the MC's door, he thinks that upon further reflection, producing 100 green creeper pots in such a short time is really very difficult. Then, he thinks again how he could be so lucky to find a spiritual creature shop with a creator behind it. As soon as he enters, he is already very surprised. Lin Yuan goes to the seller and comments that he already knew it was him. Yang laughs and says he is a little rushed because he urgently needs the goods. The MC replies that he knows and asks the seller to see with his own eyes. He prays that at least 30 pots are good, because that way there is hope for his newly rented spiritual creature breeding base. Lin Yuan shows all the green creepers the seller had ordered. Then he informs the seller that everything is there as requested. Yang is left speechless, completely impressed, and he immediately starts holding the MC's hands and saying that he saved half of his life. Lin Yuan finds this a bit embarrassing and says there is no need for that. Yang asks the MC to name the price right away and says he will not negotiate a single cent. Lin Yuan says it will be the original price as they had discussed before. The seller begins to cry, thinking that he has met a noble person in his life and that if the MC were willing, he would definitely become his sworn brother on the spot. Thus, Yang turns around and shouts that everything is fine and that he will buy all of the MC's goods for the original price. After picking up the goods, the seller tells the MC that he will put his breeding base into operation and that the MC needs to visit it and that if there is anything good, he will save it for him first. Lin Yuan says he understands and will visit him as soon as he can, then asks the seller to take care of himself. The MC keeps wondering why seller Yang was so excited. Then, he looks at where the goods had been and thinks that the room has not been this empty in a long time. So, he calls Smarty and asks if he figured out the Starnet registry he had asked him to learn a few days ago. However, Smarty shouts that it is something really bad. Lin Yuan runs desperately, wanting to know if something went wrong. The kitten comes running down the stairs saying he got fat and cannot eat any more energy cookies. Lin Yuan checks Smarty's status. Then, he picks him up and becomes pleased, saying that he leveled up to elite grade. The kitten wants to know if it is true. The MC asks if he does not feel himself becoming smarter as he rolls from side to side. Smarty replies yes, but he thinks it is because of his own extraordinary natural talent. Then he says that if before he could remember the equivalent of 1 energy cookie, now he can remember the equivalent of 5 energy cookies. The MC thinks that apparently his kitten's favorite food has also changed, going from roasted pork to energy cookies. Then he says that this is great and that later he will need his help with many things. Smarty asks the MC to trust him. Lin Yuan looks back and wonders where Yin could be, until he hears the bird saying that something bad happened, and the MC is stunned, thinking he has seen this movie before. Yin appears and says that apparently she ate a bit too much, so she wants to know if she is sick. Smarty replies that she is not, and that he thinks she just leveled up. The MC says he will take a look at her status. Thus, he begins to analyze and soon asks Yin if her 2 skills seem to be for combat and why they have no relation to singing, since her voice now sounds like the sounds of nature, and she gained the air type instead. Smarty picks up a piece of wood and says he was secretly testing her skills. Lin Yuan picks up the piece of wood and asks if the mark was caused by the sound peak skill. Yin replies yes, and says they were playing alone when the MC was not home. Smarty calls Yin to try again to see if the power increased. Thus, everyone goes outside, and while Smarty holds the piece of wood, the MC asks Yin to try the sound peak skill again. The kitten laughs and says he is very confident because Yin's aim is quite accurate. However, as soon as the bird launches her skill on the wood, it completely breaks from the impact. Smarty becomes very startled because he did not expect that. Lin Yuan becomes excited, but asks Yin to test the other skill so they can see. Yin wastes no time and uses her turbulence skill, creating a powerful whirlwind that completely shatters the piece of wood. The MC becomes very surprised by what he just saw, and thinks that the power is far from comparable to when she was normal level, and that he thinks Yin is an authentic combat class spiritual creature. Then, he goes to the entrance of his shop and sees a delivery man calling him and saying that all the goods he ordered are there, and that the MC should sign the receipt. Smarty calls Lin Yuan to test Yin's ability again, because he thinks she might even pierce an iron plate. The MC replies no, and stresses that Yin is very tired. Smarty emphasizes that his abilities are not as interesting as Yin's. While the bird rests, the MC explains that Smarty is a 100 questions beast, and that his type is different, but will be useful very soon. The kitten gets excited upon hearing this, and asks if it is really serious. Lin Yuan asks the kitten to first feed the 2 spiders that are there. Very scared, Smarty brings a green creeper to one of the spiders and hopes it will not bite him. The MC comments that apparently fearing arachnids is the instinct of most spiritual creatures. Lin Yuan picks up Smarty in one hand, and with the other uses his power on the spiders. Then, he asks the kitten to write down the information of the spiritual creatures in the shop, because from then on, matters related to this data will be passed on to him so he can get some help. Smarty observes the spiritual auras of the spiders and comments that they are emitting different lights. The MC says that the creatures are about to level up. As soon as he says that, both spiders shoot their webs wrapping their own bodies. And as soon as they create a cocoon, Smarty wants to know since when the MC became so amazing. Lin Yuan explains that this is the same as what happened with the iron-horned bull rhino back then, because the creatures were already in a state waiting for evolution, but unfortunately had an accident and were seriously injured. But after replenishing their vitality enough, He thinks advancing is only a matter of time. 2 hours later, the cocoons start to crack, and one of the spiders gains an evolutionary direction, the prehistoric regression one. The exclusive trait is potent venom that makes the spider's body, including its webs, carry intense toxicity. The other spider also receives an evolutionary direction, but now it is spiritual mutation, and the exclusive trait is the sticky web, which increases the adhesion of the web, making the spider's controllability when launching webs stronger. Smarty is impressed and comments that both spiders are indeed completely different evolutionary directions. The MC emphasizes that he did not expect this either, so he thinks the seller Yang made a good foundation with the spiritual creatures. Next, Smarty wants to know if they will sell them, because if the MC wants, he can already register them in the Starnet shop. Lin Yuan wants to know if that is possible, so he calls the kitten to take a look at it. After turning on the computer and trying to access Starnet, a notice appears asking to type a shop name. Lin Yuan gets confused and wants to know why they still need to insert a name. Smarty explains that this was specially left for him so that he would also have a feeling of participation. Without wasting more time, the MC quickly starts typing his shop name. Then he enters the name, No Lost Spiritual Creature Shop, and his username, Ancient Forest of the Deep Mountain. Smarty comments that he worked so hard to sign up for the shop and wants to know what kind of ancient name that is. Lin Yuan says that he cannot suffer a loss. It cannot be a mistake, something simple and easy to understand. Besides being catchy, Smarty comments that after playing for so long, he wants to know if the Starnet receiver is installed because they still need to test the Starnet card later. While finishing the preparations, the MC says that the kitten does not need to be in such a hurry because it is almost done. Then, passing the Starnet card over a device, he wants to know if it just needs to be scanned. At the same time, a scanner begins to pass over the place where they are, and Smarty comments that this is very cool. The MC brings the card close to his plants, and soon a scan begins to be done on them as well as on the spiders themselves. And Smarty wants to know if the spiders need to be scanned too. Lin Yuan says that they are the highest priority. The MC brings the card close to himself as well to be scanned. Something happens where they are, and the kitten immediately wants to know where he is. Lin Yuan says that it is the shop inside Starnet. Otherwise, he wants to know if Smarty thought such complicated application procedures were just for a common online shop. Smarty is impressed with the size and points out that it is about twice the size of their house. Lin Yuan replies that it is obvious and explains that although Starnet is a world composed entirely of data, such data truly exists in reality and is only presented there in the form of a virtual image. Smarty wants to know why the house decorations were not transported there then. The MC, a bit embarrassed, explains that it is because the decorations inside Starnet cost extra money. Smarty comments that apparently it is a very realistic reason. The MC notices that the menu bar can be opened that way. Then, he clicks to move directly to the Starnet community to take a good look. As soon as they are taken there, the MC immediately asks Smarty not to run around. The kitten calls the MC and asks him to look at something. Lin Yuan sees that it is a furniture and decoration shop, so he decides it is fine to take a look, because he thinks maybe they can even buy some furniture to decorate the shop. As soon as they enter the department, a robot appears wanting to know what they will need. Smarty is impressed with the robot. Lin Yuan says it is an intelligent robot. Then he responds that he wants 2 flower stands and a counter 1.5 meters high. The robot replies that it understands and asks the MC to follow it. And soon, they arrive at the place where the furniture the MC asked for is located for inspection. Lin Yuan is completely shocked by the prices and says that it seems they will not buy anything for now, and that even if they had money, he does not think that is how it should be spent. A bit embarrassed, the MC asks the robot if they have cheap chairs there. The robot replies that yes, and again asks the MC to follow it. Lin Yuan thinks that at the very least they need to buy some chairs, so it will be convenient to sit when they receive visitors in the shop. However, as soon as he sees the price of the chairs, he is completely disappointed. Smarty shouts that at most the chair should cost 1,000 Federation coins. The robot apologizes and explains that this exceeds the scope of its authority. Thus, both disappointed, Smarty comments that the bargaining did not work. Lin Yuan tells him to forget it and explains that the other party is a robot and it has nothing to do with him. After that, the MC calls Smarty to go to the bookstore, and he immediately wants to know why. Lin Yuan says that to take the creator exam, he needs to buy textbooks. Upon entering, he is impressed with how many books are there and immediately tells Smarty that he will leave this task to him. The kitten wastes no time and starts requesting books about what spiritual materials are and how to analyze them. Appreciation of rare spiritual materials, basic encyclopedia of spiritual creatures, intermediate encyclopedia of spiritual creatures, fundamentals of observing spiritual creatures, and finally, building a knowledge system for young researchers. The robot says that according to Smarty's request, it will be a total of 327 books, with a catalog included as a gift, and wants to know if he would like the books to be packaged. While the kitten is reading the books, the MC takes his Starnet card and asks the robot to wrap the books and deliver them to the address registered in the card's chip. The robot replies that that is fine, but asks the MC to first sign the confidentiality agreement and promise that the books purchased by him will not be used by anyone other than family members. Otherwise, the Creator Association will file a lawsuit against him for leaking information. After that, Lin Yuan tells the kitten that the deal is done and that it is time for them to leave. However, as soon as they return to the shop, someone is there waiting for them. A girl wants to know if the MC is the owner of the small shop because if he is, she comments that his shop does not even have an intelligent robot, and that because of that, she had no choice but to wait there without knowing when he would return. Lin Yuan apologizes and explains that the small shop has just opened and that he has not had time to prepare an intelligent robot yet, but he thinks that the little girl in front of him is about the same age as his little sister, so he wonders why she seems so arrogant. Then the little girl calls the MC uncle and asks the price of the 2 spiders she is seeing there. He, in turn, is completely bewildered at being called uncle. The girl continues asking the MC to introduce the 2 spiders he has there and their price, but says not to mention anything too expensive. Lin Yuan shows the first spider and explains that it is smaller, with long, thin legs that weave webs, being a web-shooting spider that awakened the exclusive sticky web trait. The girl wants to know if it is not venomous. Then the MC shows the other one and says that if she wants venom, the exclusive trait of the one he is showing, which also shoots webs, is powerful poison. The girl is impressed by the size of the creature and ends up falling to the ground, causing her hat to fall off and revealing that she is bald. Lin Yuan is shocked to see her real appearance, but thinks that he cannot criticize her since he is a professional trained in store management and also needs to maintain professional ethics. However, Smarty thinks the girl's bald head is a fried egg and starts drooling with hunger. The girl feels embarrassed when she realizes her hat fell off. After putting it back on, she explains that she ended up like that due to the side effects of treatment after being bitten by a phantom thorn spider, but that it will grow back in a few months. The MC thinks about the animal she mentioned and reflects that he has the feeling he has heard of it somewhere before, but cannot remember where. He then decides to ask what she actually likes about spider-type creatures. She starts trembling without saying anything. Then she gets nervous and replies that she does not like them and does not like spider-type spiritual creatures at all, and then asks who would like that kind of creature. Lin Yuan asks why she is looking for spider-type spiritual creatures and even making contact with a dangerous type like the phantom thorn spider. Completely embarrassed, she replies that it is because her affinity is with spider-type spiritual creatures, which leaves the MC stunned to learn this. But he concludes that this is how it is, since in fact, there are some types of affinity that do not fit perfectly, and that the person who hates spider-type spiritual creatures the most is precisely the one who can only contract spider-type creatures. He also keeps in mind that, from another perspective, arachnids also represent an exceptionally broad category of spiritual creatures, and that, therefore, her development direction is also exceptionally broad. In addition, the girl was successfully treated after coming into contact with a phantom thorn spider, which shows real financial power, because if that had happened to him, he thinks he would definitely have suggested that she find a place to bury herself first, until the girl comments that she does not want what the MC has there. He shouts for her to wait and says that if it is for combat, she should control the use of poison, since they are popular types and both have exclusive traits. The girl replies no, and says that the exclusive traits of the 2 spiders she saw are very weak, then emphasizes that she only wants to contract a spider-type spiritual creature with strong control abilities. Lin Yuan takes a deep breath and asks how his 2 spiders can be considered weak. The girl approaches him and says that it has nothing to do with the spider's strength, since she just wants to get a web-shooting spider with the exclusive transparent web trait, and that even if she has to place a custom order and buy some elite epic quality ones, everything will be fine. The MC thinks that, apparently, the girl in front of him is really rich and stubborn, since he knows that transparent web is an extremely rare exclusive trait and that even with custom orders, He thinks that if her luck is bad, she might not get it even after going through 10 or 20 web shooting spiders. Then he remembers something and reflects that he might really be able to get one. Thus, he comments to the girl that if it is an epic quality web shooting spider made to order, there is a way to get it, but he wants to know how many the girl wants. She calls the MC uncle once again and asks if he thinks she is innocent, cute, and easy to fool, or if he thinks that just because he is a little handsome, she will believe him. Lin Yuan starts to get annoyed and thinks that he will definitely accept this order, but not because she has a sweet mouth, rather because he cannot stand seeing this sick little girl continuing to bump into everything. However, right after that, he tells her to do whatever she wants and emphasizes that he thinks maybe if she explores 100 shops, she might find the transparent web shooting spider she wants. The girl pulls on the MC's shirt and asks him to wait a minute. Lin Yuan asks what she wants, since she had said she would not buy anything there. She asks if the MC is sure that there really is a chance. He comments that if she does not trust him, then he thinks there is no chance. The girl suggests that they add each other as friends on Starnet first, and that if the MC manages to get the customized web shooting spider, he should notify her so she can buy it. Lin Yuan knows that he had to retreat in order to advance, easily dealing with the little girl, since he has rich experience handling this type of situation. But even so, he replies that he does not thank her and asks her to just come back when she wants to buy something. The girl keeps acting cute and asking the MC not to be angry, saying that since she saw the shop does not even have decorations, she was afraid of being deceived, but that he should just add her as a friend, and that if he can customize the spider, she will not negotiate the price. Lin Yuan replies that it is fine, but asks her to stop blinking her eyes at him, and that they will add each other as friends first. Thus, both of them tap their Starnet cards. The girl laughs when she sees the MC's silly name. As for Lin Yuan, when he sees her name, he asks if shark eagles are not fish that live in the Cloud River. The girl gets nervous and asks what he is implying, and the two of them argue for a while. After that, the MC sees that he has received 10 radiant coins. The girl says that she is already paid and will wait for good news from him. As soon as she leaves, Lin Yuan concludes that she really has deep pockets, since 10 radiant coins for a customized web shooting spider makes him think that she paid the full price for 5 of them without even blinking. Smarty climbs onto the MC's head and asks if they will no longer be short of money from now on, since he has always wanted the newest discs and sound system. Lin Yuan says that he thinks that will be difficult because this is the client's full deposit and that it will only reach the account after the customized requirements are fulfilled. And before that, the money will be held by Starnet's official escrow. However, he knows that Yang has just paid the final payment that morning, so he thinks the funds are still relatively sufficient. But when he sees that in the shop's inventory, the cost of 5 elite pulverizer spiders is 1 radiant coin, Smarty is incredulous and asks why the price suddenly dropped by almost a third. The MC comments that the 3.3 radiant coins that Yang gave him have not even been used yet. Thus, he emphasizes that if he manages to follow the normal cultivation route, he does not know how much money he will have to spend buying spiritual materials, since it is not for nothing that the boiled egg gave 10 radiant coins so decisively. Smarty, dejected in his corner, asks whether, with the MC spending money like this, a small shop on Starnet can really recover its capital. Lin Yuan says that now that he has bought an intelligent robot for the shop, he does not need to worry so much about that, because he definitely has to be economical, since he does not know when more expenses will be needed to expand the shop. Smarty comments that before they left, no customer showed up, and that the old robot the MC bought looks quite ridiculous. Lin Yuan asks Smarty to look on the bright side, because as long as they do a good job on the girl's order, he thinks they will at least have a large amount of funds in the future. The kitten starts going up the stairs and says that until then, he will go play with Yin. The MC asks him not to worry and promises that he will get everything back very quickly. Then he closes the bedroom door and thinks that it is better to ask Mobius about something. As soon as he enters the spiritual world, the MC calls out to him and says that it is something he wants to talk about regarding the spiritual creature for the next stage of spiritual blocking. Mobius appears and tells the MC that this is not good at all, because Lin Yuan still needs to spend money on coins, and the resources are limited, and at the moment, they must control things strictly. The MC comments that he knows money is naturally important, but that improving one's own strength allows one to earn faster and in greater amounts. Then he comments that, regarding the spiritual creature for Mobius's next stage of spiritual blocking, he has considered it for several days, and, in the end, still needs to hear his opinion. Having said that, he brings up the spiritual siphon goldfish. After that, the MC walks through the StarNet interface, thinking that he did not expect Mobius to be so laid back. Then he begins to recall the conversation he had with him, where Mobius was responding about the spiritual siphon goldfish, saying that as long as the MC can find it, everything will be fine, since he would have no objections. But he made it clear that Lin Yuan should also know that due to the characteristics of the spiritual siphon goldfish, the spiritual chi required for it to level up is more than 10 times that of other spiritual creatures of the same level. The MC had replied that it was fine, although he could not be absolutely sure, because he could feel that when his mental power was weak, Mobius must have forcibly compressed his mental power to protect him. So he thinks that finding a way to help him recover as quickly as possible is naturally his responsibility. Mobius finished by saying that it all depended on the MC. Knowing this, Lin Yuan decides to try the StarNet search function first. After doing so, he is impressed, thinking it is incredible, because with a simple search, shops appear around him like a street of spiritual siphon goldfish. But he sees that most of them are only normal grade, so he thinks it would be great if there were elite grade ones. Thus, he wonders whether it is feasible to directly filter higher level shops. And, after trying to do that, he is quite surprised to see a huge shop around him, since apparently it seems to have about 800 square meters, and it also seems that they deliberately compressed the area a bit for better display effects, in addition to the products being arranged compactly and having specialized interface introductions, making it worth learning from the design. At that moment, Joe Jackson, the shop owner, appears and asks whether the MC needs to ask anything, because if he wants to buy something, she will accompany him, since the shop employees are off that day. Lin Yuan comments that he wants to buy a spiritual siphon goldfish. Joe Jackson accompanies the MC and informs him that all the fish inside the aquarium are normal grade. Regardless of the species, all of them cost 0.5 radiant coins, and the red goldfish, with a body size more than twice that of the other spiritual siphon goldfish, is elite grade and requires 5 radiant coins. The MC thinks that this was already expected of the goldfish, which are said to recover spiritual chi quickly, and that as he approaches, he can feel that the spiritual chi is much denser. However, he keeps in mind that it is very expensive, since a normal quality water siphon goldfish is more expensive than an elite quality web shooting spider, so he thinks it seems that his idea of directly buying an elite quality one will not work. The shop owner tells the MC that the races of these spiritual siphon goldfish are not considered good, because she thinks that if they were better races, the price would be at least 7 radiant coins or more. However, she emphasizes that for normal grade ones, the price is the same regardless of the race, since after all, it is very difficult for the creature to evolve, and few breeders are willing to accept custom orders. Lin Yuan thanks her for the advice. Joe Jackson asks him not to be so formal and says that he can just call her Shin, but still emphasizes that the type of spiritual siphon goldfish the MC chooses depends on his own judgment. Lin Yuan approaches the aquarium and says that he understands, but reflects that in terms of development potential, he should choose the dragon eye, since once it undergoes atavism and awakens the dragon bloodline in the species, it will be like a carp leaping over the dragon gate. However, he wonders whether he can have the same luck as when the iron-horned rhinoceros bull leveled up back then. He then concludes that it is better to let that go, because in any case, he knows he has to try to see whether the blocked spiritual space can accelerate the leveling of the spiritual siphon goldfish, since once successful, the shop's main product will be guaranteed. Thus, the MC points to the fish he wants and says that he will take it. The shop owner is happy and asks if he needs to buy anything else. Lin Yuan keeps in mind that the water pool in the blocked spiritual space seems to need a test to see its limit of spiritual chi consumption, and after thinking about it, the MC says that he will buy more energy ores. Joe Jackson asks how many caddies, because if he buys a lot, she can give a discount at 500 Federation coins per caddy. The MC says that he wants to buy 2,000 caddies. The shop owner is startled as soon as she hears the amount of caddies the MC wants. Lin Yuan asks whether he can pay just by directly scanning his star card. She replies that he can, and emphasizes that afterward, Ostrich Logistics will deliver the goods to his registered address. She says this, but keeps thinking about such a large volume of goods, as it even seems that the MC is an important client. Next, Joe Jackson asks whether the MC has considered the feeding issue of the spiritual siphon goldfish, since the shop recommends butterfly shells. Although the price is relatively high, they truly have miraculous effects in promoting the level increase of spiritual creatures. Lin Yuan agrees with her and thanks her once again for being so attentive. However, he soon feels heartache when he sees his account balance and thinks that the last part of the radiant coins has also been spent. But he believes this should be enough for the spiritual siphon goldfish to feed for 3 to 5 months. The shop owner suggests that the MC add her as a friend on Starnet, because the next time he needs anything, he can just contact her directly. As long as he can pay the price, she thinks she can get it for him. Lin Yuan agrees and says that it is an honor, but thinks that some rarer spiritual materials have always been scarce, and that being able to order them makes everything much more convenient. Then the MC was about to say something, but is interrupted by the shop owner, who asks whether he needs more energy ores, butterfly shells, and some spiritual siphon goldfish. Lin Yuan replies yes, but emphasizes that for the energy ores, only the inferior ones will do. She asks whether the inferior ones are acceptable, since she knows that the higher the level of the energy ore, the purer the spiritual chi it contains. Inferior ones can only be used to nurture normal grade or elite grade spiritual creatures, but with such a large volume of consumption, she is very curious about the exact size of the MC's spiritual creature breeding base. She then reflects that heaven rewards those who try, and that if she can secure the MC as a client, she thinks there will be a steady flow of orders in the future. Thus, she tells Lin Yuan that the shop also offers special services for long-term clients, and then asks whether he is interested. The MC becomes excited upon hearing this, and asks the shop owner to introduce the services they have. She says that the shop can not only acquire a portion of the spiritual creatures produced by long-term users, but can also provide severely injured spiritual creatures, and will ensure that they are fresh and special spiritual materials. The MC's eyes light up when he hears this, and he quickly asks whether she is serious and when the next batch will arrive. Jo Jiaxian says that it will arrive in 3 weeks, and emphasizes that if there are any changes, she will notify the MC on Starnet. But she thinks about the 3 weeks, and that by then, she believes the capital turnover should be resolved, as there is great potential there. Before the MC leaves, he calls the shop owner and comments that he finds something strange, since he has been there for a while, and there has been no movement in the shop. So he wants to know why, since the shop seems so good and should have an endless flow of customers. Jo Jiaxian asks if he did not know. Then she explains that that day is the match between the sequence 100 Suns, right at the radiant stairway of the Starry Sky Tower. So whether shop attendants or customers, most of them went to watch the match. Lin Yuan asks whether they could be the 100 Sons of Violet Thorn. She replies that they are not, and explains that it is even beyond that, since they are the Radiant 100 Sons of the Radiant Federation. Thus, after learning this, the MC says goodbye to the shop owner and says that he is leaving. She comments that it is fine and informs him that the goods will be delivered soon. After going outside, Lin Yuan is surprised to see that the match has already begun and that only tickets for the upper platform remain, so he needs to arrive in time. The MC thinks that this really makes people impatient, then wonders what the strongest combat professionals of the younger generation of the Radiant Federation are like. Almost near arriving at the match tower, Lin Yuan hears people shouting that the White Demon must win and that Shiranui is the strongest. And while climbing the stairs, he wonders why there are still areas within Starnet where people need to climb stairs, in addition to knowing that the match has already begun, but that fortunately, tickets for the upper platforms are not limited. Next, Lin Yuan hears people shouting and soon wants to know why there are people cheering for both sides and exactly who they are supporting, until he ends up finding the girl from before they're cheering and calls out to her. She turns around after hearing someone calling her and, seeing the MC through binoculars, comments that his face is huge. Lin Yuan greets her and asks her to at least lower the binoculars first. The girl turns around and comments that no one said you cannot cheer for both sides at the same time, and that she would be happy regardless of which side won, but she wants to know who the MC is cheering for. He feels a bit embarrassed and replies that he is cheering just like her for both sides. The girl is happy to hear that, takes the MC by the hand, and says that he has incredible taste. But Lin Yuan thinks that he cannot tell her, since he does not know who either of them is. However, after holding hands for a brief moment, the girl becomes shy and goes to wipe her hand, which makes the MC a little nervous, wondering if she was not the one who grabbed his hand first. Then she comments that if the MC supports both sides, he cannot miss a single detail of the battle, since just listening to the commentary will not be enough, and then hands him a pair of binoculars. Lin Yuan thanks her for the kind gesture, and thinks that although the girl is clumsy, her nature is not bad. As he observes a bit, the MC comments that apparently The two sides do not seem to be the same type of combat professionals. Then he wonders whether the plants he is seeing are spiritual creature plants of the healing type. The girl thinks the MC has good eyesight and asks who he thinks will win. Lin Yuan observes once more and asks whether it is not certain that the sequence member with the higher ranking should have the advantage, especially since all of them are already gold-level spiritual creatures. At that moment, the girl who is battling asks her spiritual creature to use the molten lava of the palm strike. Thus, the bear prepares its attack and soon strikes against the plant of the other opponent, who in turn asks her spiritual creature, the snow tree hibiscus, to use the snow chill of the ice soul grass. With that said, the snow of the tree hibiscus disperses the flames, and the lava bear's swift attack has little effect. The owner of the bear thinks her opponent's tactic is good, supporting each other and making it hard to break through the defense, but emphasizes that today she will break this tactic. She then asks the lava bear to use explosive charge and stop the movements of the snow tree hibiscus. The bear begins to hurl its skill, and several explosions occur at the impact site. Lin Yuan is quite surprised by the intensity of the offensive. The girl comments that this was already expected from Lady Shiranui, since she is a powerful attack-type spiritual chi professional, and, compared to Lady White Devil, who is of the healing type, she naturally has a better chance of winning. Lin Yuan hears the girl telling him not to worry, because in terms of sequence, Lady White Devil's ranking is higher, who in turn activates the power of her spiritual creature. This successfully heals the snow hibiscus and suppresses the lava bear. Shiranui comments that Daisy truly has something special, and that she did not expect that under such a fierce offensive, she would still have energy to spare to save both spiritual creatures. But she makes it clear that her offensive is not limited to just one wave. Thus, under the fierce attack of the twin bears, the snow hibiscus tree can only defend passively, and perhaps the balance of victory is beginning to tilt. Shiranui comments that this war of attrition they are fighting has already lasted 1 hour and 15 minutes, so she wants to know whether White Devil's spiritual chi can keep up. The MC, closely following the fight, thinks that even if the sequence ranking is higher, a healing type is still at a disadvantage when facing a powerful attack type. White Devil smiles and comments to Shiranui that the difference between 18 and 47 is not as simple as she imagines. With that said, she activates her spiritual creature's Snow Chill ability, which blocks the charge of the twin bears. Then she uses Ice Soul Grass, Extreme Cold Seal. The bears begin to freeze. Shiranui comments that for White Devil to still be able to use such a large range move after fighting for so long is truly incredible. Thus, both lava bears were frozen. The girl comments to the MC that she is impressed to see Lady White Devil counterattack and finally put an end to Lady Shiranui's fierce assault, but she thinks that this kind of ice will soon be broken, and that when that happens, she believes Lady Shiranui will complete her counterattack. Lin Yuan emphasizes that it is not that simple, telling the girl not to forget that White Devil is a healer. Next, White Devil uses the skill Resurrection Butterfly of the Wings of Resurrection, which automatically begins to heal her spiritual creatures. The audience goes wild and comments that they cannot believe it, since the injuries were repaired with a single skill. But although the wounds have not fully recovered, White Devil's spiritual creatures already have the ability to fight again. Shiranui laughs and says that she already expected this from White Devil. She then releases a large amount of power together with her enormous bear and shouts that she is the one who will win the fight. The audience realizes that it is a level suppression and that the giant flowing flame bear is already of platinum classification. At that moment, White Devil slams her staff hard against the ground and comments that she did not expect Shiranui to have such great progression. With that said, she becomes very serious, and right after that, several butterflies begin to fly. Shiranui shouts that no matter what move White Devil intends to use, she cannot break her flowing flame. Critical Strike, which combines attack and defense, since this move was trained specifically for this moment. White Devil does not want to hear any more talk and orders her attack. The butterflies rush straight at the bear, and it begins to take numerous hits and cannot defend itself. Shiranui is impressed to see that her bears did not stand the slightest chance against this relentless attack. Thus, the winner of the battle was White Devil. Shiranui comments that she did not expect the Resurrection Butterfly to have evolved into a fantasy race of the gold rank, and that, indeed, it seems she did not lose the duel unfairly. White Devil goes to her opponent, extends her hand, and says that it is not a Resurrection Butterfly, then explains that after evolving into a fantasy race, it became a Calamity Butterfly, but tells Shiranui to stay excited since the audience is watching. Next, the crowd begins to shout the names of both of them. Meanwhile, the girl grabs the MC by the neck and shakes him from side to side, shouting that Lady White Devil is really awesome, and that although Shiranui lost, as expected of the woman who manipulates the power of bears, she was also explosive. Lin Yuan finds all of this incredible as well, and reflects that his sister's battles at school are completely like playing house compared to what he just witnessed. So he wonders whether the peak combat power of the younger generation of the Radiant Federation is really that strong. Then, the girl says goodbye to the MC and asks him not to forget his web-shooting spiders. Lin Yuan keeps thinking that he did not expect a fantasy race to be so strong, since a gold-level healing spiritual creature can even cross levels to defeat a platinum-level combat spiritual creature. Thus, he reflects that his rune of will is the key to allowing a spiritual creature to evolve into a fantasy race, and that it perfectly matches a healing spiritual creature. However, he keeps in mind that unfortunately, the only healing-type spiritual creature he currently has is the blonde lily. After returning home, he concludes that it is still a bit too early to worry about that until he hears Yin saying some strange things. As soon as he reaches the room, he sees Yin wearing headphones and Smarty messing with the computer, so he wants to know what is going on there, since he managed to hear the noise from downstairs. Smarty gets startled when caught and shouts, wanting to know why the MC never knocks on the door. Lin Yuan wants to know why he would have to knock on the door of his own room and what they are doing behind his back. Smarty tries to cover it up by saying it is nothing, and that he was just practicing singing and looking for some sheet music. The MC pretends to believe it, but asks them to give him some space, as he needs to research some information. Yin quietly asks the kitten whether Lin Yuan should not have noticed. He replies that it is fine, and explains that he closed the computer quickly, but emphasizes that there was still time to secretly request that account and that the MC does not know. While researching on the computer, Lin Yuan comments that to promote a copper-level spiritual creature to legendary quality, at least sea-level spiritual chi is required, since otherwise they would put those two web-shooting spiders up for auction on the internet, and they should still fetch a good price. At that same moment, the MC hears the doorbell ring, and when he goes to see who it is, he sees that it is the Ostrich Logistics delivery person who says that he is delivery number 457, and that he is there to deliver the goods the MC bought on Starnet, and that he needs him to sign the receipt. Then he shouts, telling the newbie to hurry up and bring the items over quickly. Smarty asks whether the items are valuable. Lin Yuan says they are for the future development of the store. The novice delivery woman starts bringing all the items at once and comments that she is a newbie, number 3451. Smarty sees that she is having difficulty and comments that it looks dangerous. Lin Yuan notices this as well and asks to help her. However, at that moment, the delivery woman loses her balance and the spiritual siphon fish starts to fall. Smarty jumps to try to catch it. When he catches it, he ends up getting drenched by the aquarium water. But soon, he notices that the fish is not inside the aquarium and asks where the fish went. At that moment, Yin appears with the fish and says that she caught it to save it. After that, the older delivery man becomes nervous and comments to his assistant that she almost caused a major disaster. She is completely shocked and starts apologizing repeatedly for the incident. Lin Yuan comments that it is fine, since everyone has moments when they make mistakes unintentionally. Smarty, seeing the amount of things the MC bought, asks whether they are going to open a farm. Lin Yuan says that only by expanding the scale can they expand profits, but that the novice delivery woman was really strong, since she helped move 2,000 energy ores into the room, and that even with a spiritual chi-tempered body since youth, that is a bit excessive. Then he tells them to go upstairs and play, as he is going into isolated cultivation, but also reminds Smarty that all the materials for the knowledge chip were saved in his Starnet account, so he should hurry up and start learning. The kitten replies that it is fine, but that first, he will just grab some energy biscuits. As soon as he reaches his room, the MC activates the spirit lock on the little fish, and while doing so, keeps in mind that the next step is to level up. 1 hour later, Lin Yuan realizes that the spiritual chi consumed from normal grade to elite grade is several times greater than that of the green creeper, but that his spiritual power increased by almost the same amount as the green creepers. So he knows it is not without reason that the spiritual siphon goldfish is notoriously difficult to raise. The MC looks around and wonders how he will move so much ore into the spirit lock space. 2 days later, Mobius is looking at the fish and commenting that he is very envious, since someone has such a large spiritual transformation pool to move freely. Then he looks at the MC and says that he does not have that, but that it is fine if he is alone. Lin Yuan, while feeding the fish, asks what Mobius is trying to say, since he did not help him, but that in recent days he has not moved more than 1,000 ores alone. Mobius tries to explain that he is still in a spiritual body state at the moment. The MC says that this is the limit and that the spiritual chi concentration in the locked spiritual space is already saturated. So he emphasizes that if Mobius wants to further increase the concentration, he can only wait for his next breakthrough. Mobius agrees and emphasizes that as long as he can continuously evolve, the upper limit of concentration will also continuously increase, but that at the moment, he thinks it is probably a little more than 5 times that of the outside world. Next, he comments that the spiritual siphon goldfish is indeed continuously absorbing the spiritual chi of the space. Lin Yuan emphasizes that the fish is the main product and the future of the store. However, he comments that it would be great if he could awaken a dragon species bloodline, since he specifically chose the dragon eye race. Mobius asks whether, for that to happen, it does not require dragon beast blood. Lin Yuan replies that yes, and says that the biggest problem at the moment is the lack of money, since he can only earn the price difference by leveling up spiritual creatures quickly, as fast as possible. Mobius sees the MC carrying some boxes, and soon wants to know what it is this time. Lin Yuan says that the web-shooting spiders and the sales of elite-level green creepers are really doing very well, but he thinks they still need products with more exclusive characteristics. Mobius asks why the MC needs to move them specifically to level up. Lin Yuan explains that this happens because the spiritual chi transformation speed inside the locked spiritual space is also 5 times faster than in the outside world. Thus, after applying his power to the spiders, they were promoted to epic quality. The MC gets excited to see that it worked and that it only took a little more than 2 hours to complete, since he knows that outdoors it would take at least about 12 hours. At that moment, the MC's phone starts ringing. He sees that the spiders have already been registered in the transaction. Then he hopes to keep up the good work, put more spiders up for auction, and reach a small goal. Mobius asks whether the MC does not think he will end up becoming greedy. Then, Lin Yuan sees that he received a notification where he earned a tip of 500 Federation coins, and that Lord Shun Lin is asking him to continue the good work and persist in the daily live broadcasts. The MC wonders whether a store on StarNet can also receive tips from others, until he becomes worried, since he thinks it can only be someone who is thinking about that. Thus, he immediately returns to the outside world and starts climbing the stairs to go to his room. And when he enters the room, he sees Yin and Smarty up to something and soon wants to know what they are doing. Then, he asks the two for permission and comments that he is going to check. Lin Yuan is extremely shocked to see the people's comments on the live stream, commenting about the beautiful voice they are hearing and others wanting to know why they are not showing their face and whether visual streamers do not show their face. Next, the MC wants to know about this Yin Luo streaming, since, if it were not for the shared income and expenses system, he wants to know if they really did not think he would realize that the two of them were starting a career behind his back. Yin tries to explain, saying that it is a well-chosen name. Lin Yuan comments that, apparently, they are quite proud of themselves, since they did not even bother to show their own faces. Yin says that Smarty had said that only this way could they create differentiation within the same niche. Therefore, the MC calls for Smarty, and he comments that he gets tired after studying for a few hours every day, and that then he might as well hand over the time to Yin so that she can use it effectively. Lin Yuan reflects that, apparently, the account has been open for a few days. Although there are some highlighted comments, there are very few followers, being just a silly little game, so he thinks he will let them play around a bit more, but keeps in mind that other soundbirds like to exert their control over sound waves, while Yin simply likes to sing since she was little. Therefore, he comments that it is fine, and that he thinks it is great that they plan to use their specialties and hobbies effectively. However, at that moment, the MC still had not realized what kind of legend Yin would become in the world of live streaming in the future. Smarty and Yin are quite happy to know that the MC liked their idea. However, Lin Yuan makes it clear that they absolutely cannot accept inappropriate tips, and that, from that moment on, 500 Federation coins is the maximum limit, and also that the soundtrack needs to be changed, because at the very least they should switch to the soundtrack with a voice actor. But Smarty and Yin do not pay any attention at all and fly away. After that, the MC returns to Mobius's sealed realm and comments that Smarty and Yin are two very interesting little guys. Lin Yuan asks Mobius not to talk about them for now, since he is worried about how Mobius should level up, because the concentration of spiritual QI in the space has also reached a bottleneck, but it still cannot keep up with the volume of consumption of the spiritual creatures he has nurtured, and the prerequisites for Mobius to level up are first to nurture other spiritual creatures so that they level up. Next, he emphasizes that even if he can accelerate this process by transforming spiritual QI, this is limited by his own professional level of spiritual QI, so efficiency is ultimately limited. Since, if he wants to speed up this process, he needs his level to increase, making it simply a vicious cycle. Mobius comments that if it costs so much money, he wonders whether it would not be better to avoid pursuing high quality. The MC replies that this will not work, and explains that only by improving the quality of the spiritual creature can the creature's level be revealed. Then he hopes that each spiritual creature can realize its own value, because if the Dragon Eye spiritual siphon goldfish is to advance, it needs at least 3 drops of dragon beast blood, and for Blonde Lily to attempt legendary grade quality, she needs a portion of resurrection soil, 2 sequoia cores, and 1 liter of Flora spring water. So he thinks that, no matter what, he will call Joe Jackson first to ask. Therefore, he does not waste time and soon calls her. Joe Jackson is quite surprised to learn that the MC needs dragon beast blood, so she asks if he really needs it, since it is quite expensive. Then she thinks that her judgment was correct, since the MC truly is a worthy client who spent almost 5 radiant coins the first time he entered the shop. Joe Jackson checks on her computer and informs the MC that the price of gold-grade dragon beast blood is 80 radiant coins per drop, and platinum-grade dragon beast blood is 2,000 radiant coins per drop. She then reinforces that, if the MC buys a large quantity, she can give a discount and can also guarantee that it was not diluted. Lin Yuan remains silent since he is crying upon learning the price, and while she keeps calling out to him over the phone, the MC thinks that he cannot afford it. However, after regaining his composure, he calls her over and says that he was only asking first, and that he wants to order 4,000 caddies of inferior energy stones and 3 spiritual siphon golden fish, and that everything can be of normal quality. Joe Jackson thinks that, judging by this replenishment speed, at most the MC will need dragon beast blood the next time she sees him, so she knows she needs to hurry and prepare, since it seems she has truly encountered a huge client. After that, 2 hours pass and Mobius sees that the delivery was very fast. Lin Yuan comments that the 5 web-spinning spiders there have finally been upgraded to epic quality, but that the money earned in the last few days has dropped again to only 0.4 radiant coins, and the spiritual QI in the space has been consumed by more than half. Then, while feeding the fish, he remarks that if life could have some moments as carefree as those little golden fish, it would be nice. At that moment, the MC sees one of the fish becoming a bit rebellious and wants to know what happened. Then, he wonders whether the fish did not originally live in the same pool, since the spiritual transformation pool is only larger and not smaller, and therefore wants to know how they could start fighting there. Mobius replies that it is because the MC is very naive and talks about natural selection and the survival of the fittest, since evolution is inherently the most creative ability that nature grants to living beings, and no matter the type of spiritual creature, they will not easily share the spiritual QI that sustains them with other spiritual creatures, even if they were partners. Lin Yuan comments that this is also the reason why the strong get stronger, and it is difficult for the weak to rise. Mobius says that it seems he understood. However, he emphasizes that nature is also balanced, since the more powerful the individual, the more they must understand coexistence and order. So he believes that his calm mind should be able to temporarily eliminate the aggression of the Dragon Eye spiritual siphon golden fish, and that, in any case, this prevents any accidents, in addition to the other 3 evolving to elite grade in 5 days. Lin Yuan says that he will not disturb him and that he will add more ore. When he picks up his phone and sees the notification that his elite grade green creepers sold out so quickly, he becomes quite happy. Mobius wants to know whether he did not just upgrade some web-spinning spiders, since he will already have to restock them. The MC says yes, and that it is time to deliver the goods to the little girl who looks like a boiled egg. After that, the MC goes to Starnet and hears some people arguing. A girl comments that, seeing that the guy in front of her was a monk, she let him order first, and he dared to take everything. The monk tells the girl that Buddha always said that one should not steal. The girl says she does not care at all about what Buddha said, and emphasizes that she helped the monk, and he still got in her way. Then says that if he has the courage, they should meet in person. The MC gets irritated by this silly argument and shouts for them to go outside the shop. Then, he summons his web-spinning spiders. The monk is very impressed, wanting to know if this is the work of a 2-star creator. The girl, on the other hand, is impressed by the epic quality of the spiders. Lin Yuan laughs and says that the spiders are custom-made spiritual creatures and are not for sale. Both the monk and the girl want to know what conditions are required for a custom-made spiritual creature. The MC feels a bit embarrassed and replies that he is temporarily not accepting custom orders that month, and that they should resume this business, at least next month. The monk and the girl look at each other and ask whether the MC still has elite quality green creepers. Lin Yuan apologizes to both of them and informs them that everything is sold out, but that he will sell more elite quality green creepers very soon. Then, he informs them that his shop will also sell elite grade spiritual siphon golden fish. The monk immediately says that he offers 8 radiant coins to order the golden fish. The girl becomes furious when she sees that the monk is trying to buy everything again. The MC reflects that, apparently, the two are old buyers. However, he makes it clear to both that if they continue arguing, they will go straight to the shop's blacklist. Thus, both the girl and the monk gesture to each other to stay quiet. Lin Yuan thinks this is quite exhausting, since it seems the shop rules need to be defined quickly and placed in the most visible location. The monk comments that he is silently awaiting the MC's good news and takes his leave. Lin Yuan looks at the girl and asks if she has any other business, since he really has no more spiritual creatures to sell there at the moment. She smiles and asks if he can heal spiritual creatures. Lin Yuan asks her to explain this better. The girl says that there is a spiritual creature with a damaged foundation and severe injuries. The MC emphasizes that if it is below silver level, he can try something. She becomes happy and says that her daughter's spiritual creature can finally be saved. Lin Yuan is completely stunned to learn that the person in front of him has a daughter, since she looks like a young girl who clearly seems to be the same age as his sister. She shows the MC her daughter's copper-level spiritual creature and says that while training near a dimensional rift, its roots were burned by a horned demon. Lin Yuan is surprised to hear this, since he knows that a horned demon, whose fire has the withering attribute and the withering effect, is practically a critical hit against plant-type spiritual creatures. So it is no wonder that the creature suffered damage to its foundation. The girl thanks the MC and asks how they will calculate the remuneration, as she does not have enough money with her at the moment, but will definitely save up by next month. Lin Yuan says that it is fine and asks her not to worry, because in any case he does not have time this month, so he thinks it is better for her to bring the injured spiritual creature next month. Then he says that he does not want money as remuneration, since if she can find what he is showing, that will be enough. She asks if revival soil really works, because she does not want to take advantage of him. Then she makes it clear that she will definitely find the reversal soil for him. The MC says that he will be waiting, but emphasizes that if she cannot find it, they can discuss the treatment price again. The girl thinks that Zhou Jiaxin did not have reversal soil in her shop, but that her mother has many connections. After the girl leaves, the MC thinks that the reversal soil can be considered resolved, and that the Flora Spring water can also be resolved by throwing money at it, but wonders whether the Sequoia core can be obtained by auctioning at the Treasure Pavilion. However, he concludes that it is better not to think that far ahead for now, since he needs to send the web-spinning spiders to Cloudstream first. After delivering the goods to the girl who looks like a boiled egg, she asks if he is cheating, because only a few days have passed and he already achieved epic quality. Then she calls the MC uncle and says that she really did not expect him to be so fast. Lin Yuan says that if she is satisfied with the inspection, he will send more. She replies that she is very satisfied and asks him to send more, because she cannot wait. Lin Yuan says that one of the web-spinning spiders has the deadly poison ability and that she needs to be careful with her hair. She becomes nervous and replies that she was not bitten on purpose, then shows her head and says that her hair is already growing back. That said, she says that she has already transferred the money and takes her leave from the MC. Lin Yuan wonders why this girl explodes at the slightest touch, but knows that at least now he has the capital and it is time to immediately expand production. Thus, the MC began to expand his production and, consequently and continuously, earned money. While lying down, he looks at his phone and sees that the butterfly-tailed spiritual siphon golden fish are selling very well, and that he also needs to order more green creepers. The MC looks to the side and sees Smarty acting strangely, so he wants to know what is wrong with his eyes and whether he studied for too long and hurt them. Smarty replies that no, and says that there are just some concepts he did not understand very well, so he wants to know what the complexity of the evolution of spiritual creatures is. Lin Yuan asks what specifically. Smarty explains that this means the evolution of spiritual creatures does not have the strengthening of survival or combat capability as its sole objective, but that he thinks that if that were the case, spiritual creatures would not be able to sustain their existence during evolution. The MC thinks that such an abstract theory is really difficult to understand, and that therefore he needs to find a concrete example. Lin Yuan asks the kitten if he knows green creepers. He replies that yes, since Yin eats them every day. The MC comments that if he were smarty and wanted to maintain survival capability, he wants to know in which direction he would evolve. Smarty says that if it were him, he thinks he should get rid of the leaves so as not to be eaten, and also evolve toxicity so as not to be eaten by accident. Lin Yuan imagines what his kitten said and wonders whether that would not be evolving into a poisonous cactus. Smarty continues saying that it would also need to be very resilient, not needing water. However, the MC makes it clear to his kitten that thinking in that direction is completely wrong. Smarty wants to know why, since the direction he gave is the most suitable for survival. Then Lin Yuan picks up a green creeper and shows it to his kitten, saying that it is of copper classification. Smarty is surprised and comments that it is completely different from what he had said. After tasting a bit, he says that it could practically be described as fresh and juicy, and that the flavor is also not bad. Then he wants to know whether the green creeper really wants to be eaten. Lin Yuan laughs and says that he is right. Then he explains that the evolutionary path of the green creeper is equivalent to declaring to all spiritual creatures, emphasizing that it can produce food and that they must take good care of it and nurture it carefully, because in this way, it naturally secures a place among spiritual creatures. Smarty further comments that if it were him, he would also evolve to become tasteless, because the worse the taste, the better. The MC calls out to Smarty and says that studying for too long gives him tunnel vision, and he will not discover anything, so he thinks he needs to take a walk to relax. Thus, the MC takes his little creatures out for a walk, and Lin Yuan thinks that they have been relying too much on online shopping lately, and that, because of that, they have not been able to go out much. Until, on one of the building's large screens, a report is playing saying that the Radiant Federation Creators Guild will reform the Creator Certification Assessment, and that anyone who completes the 1-star Creator Assessment within 2 hours may be exempt from 3 Lifestyle Professional Advancement Assessments and be evaluated directly for 2-star Creator. The MC becomes excited upon learning this and tells his creatures that he can charge directly for 2 stars, because no matter what happens, he needs to secure this at all costs. However, he is surprised to hear the next piece of news related to the Federation, where recently, according to Federation investigations, dimensional rifts will enter an active period in 6 months, and a tide of exotic beasts will arrive. So the Radiant Federation will enter a state of combat readiness, and, because of this, citizens are to prepare in advance and not panic. Then, the report informs that the Federation will dispatch spiritual guardians during the active period of the dimensional rift to help resist the tide of exotic beasts. The MC, after hearing this, begins to remember when he was little and was asking his parents where they were going. At the time, they asked Lin Yuan to take good care of his sister, because they were going out for a little while and would return early the next day when he had woken up. However, the next day, someone badly injured informed the MC about his parents. Then the MC's sister woke up and wanted to know where their parents were. Lin Yuan replied that they would not be coming back anymore. Xiao Shui ran desperately to her brother, and he said that he would take good care of her from that moment on, but he was intrigued upon seeing his parents' blood axe emblems. Then, the MC stops thinking about it, since his little creatures were worried about him from calling him so much. Lin Yuan hugs them and says that everything is fine and that they will return home, but he keeps thinking about the spiritual guardian emblems he had seen when he was younger. After returning home, the MC goes straight to the computer to do some research and, upon finding something, thinks it is just as he had imagined, since the dimensional rift opened in the outskirts of Xia County 10 years ago, and it was the spiritual guardians who eliminated the crisis. Then, he sees the report about the urgent interruption, where the sudden dimensional rift in a dungeon in Xia County had occurred, and a beast tide threatened urban security. Lin Yuan also sees the monitoring showing the existence of a high-level energy source deep within the rift, where, at 7 o'clock in the morning that day, a level 4 exotic swamp dragonfly broke through the formation, and its powerful acidic mandibles and sonic attacks had already caused severe injuries to 30 members of the defense team, and the Wind and Thunder squad of the Spiritual Guard was suppressing it with full force. But, to make matters worse, at 15 o'clock, the rift vibrated again, and a level 5 exotic rotten bone silkworm appeared. This creature spat corrosive bone paste from its mouth and could even manipulate the corpses of its own species for combat, and when close to death, it released bone-devouring gangrenous energy to corrode the bone marrow of living beings. However, at that moment, the Captain General of the Spiritual Guard led the core members to the front line, and the sealing and extermination were proceeding simultaneously. Lin Yuan also sees the recent progress, where, at 20 o'clock, the decomposing bone silkworm was severely injured, but its residual power caused continuous acidification of the soil around the battlefield. The spiritual guards reported that no civilian casualties had occurred at the site so far, but that 120 members were seriously injured and 53 were missing. The dimensional rift sealing operation began and is expected to be completed within 72 hours. The MC is surprised to learn about the bone silkworm, since he has in mind that bone-devouring gangrene is a mutual destruction ability that rotten bone silkworms can only activate by sacrificing themselves when they are at the end of their endurance. Then, he thinks of his Uncle Lee, and that, for so many years, he truly did not know. Upon picking up a box and seeing his parents' blood-stained emblems, he thinks that his uncle was also part of the spiritual guard. Then, Lin Yuan reflects that the south is lava, the north is sealed by ice, the west rises into the great desert, and the east reaches the swamp, and that the Radiant Federation exists in the cracks between these dangerous zones. And countless spiritual creatures are active within the Radiant Federation and its surroundings, and the spiritual guardians are the guardian organization of the Radiant Federation responsible for dealing with disasters caused by spiritual creatures and invasions of exotic beasts. Thus, upon picking up the emblem, he thinks of his parents and wonders whether they worked at such a dangerous post and why they had never mentioned it. Until, upon turning the emblem over, he notices that there are some words. As he wipes away the blood, he sees the number 2837 and wonders if it is his parents' internal serial number within the spiritual guardians. Then, he decides to search for something on the internet to see if he can discover anything. However, upon encountering an error, he wonders what is happening. After putting the emblem away, Lin Yuan wonders whether what he did triggered some kind of authorization level, and it is a pity that his Aunt Zhang accompanied Uncle Lee to the hospital for a checkup, because otherwise, he would have asked them something. Lin Yuan lies on his bed, deep in thought, reflecting that his uncles are old friends of his parents, and that he thinks they must know something. Since, judging by Uncle Lee's injury, he must have been a witness to that event back then, and possibly even a member of the spiritual guardians. At that moment, someone knocks on the door. The MC stands up in surprise, wanting to know who it could be so late at night, and while walking to the door to see who it is, he keeps in mind that his sister is preparing for the 100 Suns event, and that, because of this, she cannot come back. And even if she did, she would notify him in advance, besides the fact that people related to the Starnet store contact him by phone. Then, he becomes intrigued, since he is noticing that the sound of the knocking has changed. So he reflects that the worst possibility is that his ability to enhance and evolve spiritual creatures has been exposed and people are there to kidnap him. Yin wants to know who it could be, while Smarty wants to know if the MC robbed someone. He tells the kitty not to talk nonsense, since he only has one stock. Then, he makes it clear to Yin that if he steps back after opening the door, no matter what comes in, she should simply release turbulence and sound peak directly at the door. She replies that it is fine and that she will do so. Thus, Lin Yuan opens the door very slowly and asks what the person wants. A woman and a man ask the MC not to be nervous and ask if they may ask whether Lin Yuan is the son of Lin Jian and Chu Yan. The MC wants to know if they know his parents. The woman, while showing the emblem, replies that yes, and that just by the MC seeing the emblem, he should already understand. But she emphasizes that she did not expect him to have grown so much. Then, she says that the two there are from the spiritual guardians and that her name is Su Jin, but that he can call her Aunt Su. The woman also says that the guy who is with her is named Dong Hai. He wants to know whether Lin Yuan searched the internal database of the spiritual guardians just a short while ago, since they located the MC based on that. Lin Yuan remains wary about all of this, but Dong Hai takes out a piece of cloth with blood and explains that it is a long story, since the conclusion of the battle back then was very chaotic. In addition, at that time, most members of the spiritual guardians went on missions with hidden identities, and, therefore, the handling of the aftermath by the organization always presented some persistent problems. He then apologizes for having arrived late. The MC, upon taking the piece of cloth in his hand, is very surprised, since on the cloth itself there is a message from his parents, telling Lin Yuan and Xiao Xue that they hope their future paths will be smooth and open. The MC becomes emotional after this, and comments that it is his mother's handwriting. Dong Hai says that tasks related to the spiritual guardians are significantly dangerous, so he thinks that the MC's Aunt Zhang and Uncle Lee hid this from him, only accompanying and taking care of them in silence. Lin Yuan wipes and dries his tears and emphasizes that he does not blame his uncles, since he knows that it was also thanks to them that Xiao Shui and he were fine and were able to grow up peacefully. Dong Hai makes it clear that from that moment on, he will protect them, and that if there is anything, they just need to call him. At that moment, Sujin gives a light cough to draw her partner's attention, who in turn comments that he was about to forget. He then takes out a box and says that this was exchanged for the merits of the MC's parents, and also thanks to old Zhang and the others who applied several times. Lin Yuan wants to know what it is. While the MC opens the box, Dong Hai says that it is an origin seed. Lin Yuan asks Sujin what an origin seed is. She explains that dimensional rifts do not only erupt with tides of exotic beasts, but also give rise to various treasures known as source-type items, and that a rift only closes when the source-type item is obtained. Thus, she says that the origin seed the MC is seeing right before his eyes is an origin-type item that can make a level 2 dimensional rift close, which leaves Lin Yuan very surprised to learn this. Dong Hai emphasizes to the MC that the seed he has in his hands matches him perfectly, and that he heard from old Li that he suffered an accident during cultivation when he was young, which left his body weak, and that contracting spiritual beings consumes him greatly. But he stresses that a source seed only needs to be nourished with fresh blood and does not require the MC's mental power or spiritual energy. Lin Yuan takes the seed in his hand and observes it. Sujin comments that the source seed can be cultivated into a spiritual being and that its abilities and evolutionary direction can be freely guided through cultivation, but that, given the MC's fragile health, she suggests cultivating the seed to become a healer-type spiritual being, since she believes this will be of great benefit to his physical conditioning in the future. Lin Yuan thinks about what she just said, as he has in mind that this aligns with his current affinity. He then remembers the White Devil and reflects that pure healing alone is hardly sufficient to stand firm in the world he lives in, since he also needs combat power, like the Wind Butterfly Calamity. Sujin also comments that she has a Central Federal Bank card with her, and that it contains 100 radiant coins, telling the MC to consider it a personal gift from her, like compensation that is 10 years overdue. Dong Hai emphasizes that he also has a part in this, and points out that cultivating a source seed and paying for Xiao Shua's education will not be cheap, so he suggests that the MC not try to save money, since if any money is left over, it should be treated as interest for the last 10 years. Lin Yuan replies that he cannot, and explains that he cannot accept the money they are offering. Thus, he opens the door to his house and, as Smarty and Yin appear, says that he is fine at the moment because he has the two of them. Dong Hai calls the MC and says that he has lived at least 20 years longer than him, and therefore believes he can give some advice. Then says that he does not care about what the MC thinks, since he cares about what he himself thinks, and so asks him to take the money and use it. Sujin observes the MC and thinks that, apparently, he has not physically recovered for a long time, since the spiritual creatures with him are probably only at the elite level, and even slightly stronger opponents are already at the bronze level or above, and therefore, he still needs a lot of real combat experience. Thus, she decides to ask the MC if he would like to learn about his parents' line of work. Dong Hai is surprised by his partner's question and asks her if she is serious. Sujin explains that there is a level 1 dimensional rift at the Xia City Hall, connected to the Insect Kingdom, and that if the MC is interested, she thinks she can take him to see where the Spiritual Suppression Division operates. But she emphasizes that even though it is only level 1, it is not completely without risks. At the same time, Lin Yuan agrees, saying that he will go and that the two of them there certainly know more or less about his previous condition, since he has already lost a lot in this world, but that with such a good opportunity right in front of him, he cannot simply refuse it. However, he thinks that within half a year, the dimensional rift will be activated and that the arrival of a beast tide is imminent, and therefore making preparations early is the wisest option. Sujin comments that everything is settled and thinks that the MC's mother would be proud, since her son is a true talent. Dong Hai quietly asks his partner if she does not think they should be a little more cautious with this kind of matter, but at the same time, she lightly elbows him in the stomach and tells him to stop being silly, since after he eliminates the insectoids, she will personally protect the MC. That said, while summoning one of her spiritual creatures, she asks Lin Yuan to prepare to depart immediately. He, in turn, activates his power and sees the information of Sujin's spiritual creature, whose name is Fluffy Feathered Snow Owl of Platinum classification, with wind and ice attributes. He also sees the abilities Feather Attack, Snow Feather Spike, Snow Stride on the ground, and Snow Protection. The creature's exclusive trait is rapid freezing. Lin Yuan is surprised to see that a casual summon is already at the platinum level and possesses 5 abilities. And, moreover, it still seems to be a defensive, spiritual being, worthy of the spiritual suppression division. Yin keeps pacing back and forth, impressed by the size of the bird, then asks if one day she will also become that strong. The MC replies yes, and emphasizes that he will do his best to train her to be the same. Next, the MC asks Dong Hai if he can bring his spiritual creatures along. He takes a deep breath but ends up allowing it and comments that he will be responsible for their safety. After mounting the enormous owl, Smarty becomes quite relaxed, commenting that he has finally managed to get a big bird to ride. Yin, on the other hand, comments that she feels as if she is sitting on fluffy velvet. Lin Yuan asks if Yin at least knows what velvet is. She replies that she does not know, but that in her imagination, velvet is exactly what she is feeling, and thus, they travel. And it does not take long until they soon arrive at the dimensional rift. As soon as they land on the ground, those responsible for guarding the rift warn that the area ahead is restricted and that unauthorized personnel are not permitted. Dong Hai introduces himself and says that he is from the Spiritual Suppression Division, requesting entry into the Dimensional Rift's restricted zone, as he will be leading a team for basic cleanup operation. One of the guards salutes and comments that the identity verification has been completed and wishes Lord Dong a smooth mission. After that, they quickly advance into the Dimensional Rift, and Dong Hai explains that the area ahead is already within the rift's range, but that from time to time, some mutant insects fall, and that is exactly why so many Violet Thorn guards are stationed there. Meanwhile, Yin and Smarty are trembling with fear at the sounds they are hearing, until Lin Yuan is startled by a creature approaching. Without much trouble, Dong Hai finishes off the creature. Lin Yuan is impressed to see that Dong Hai managed to destroy a mutant insect with a single punch using only spiritual energy, thus concluding that this is the strength of the Spiritual Suppression Division. Su Jin asks the MC to stay calm and not be nervous, because even though many mutant insects are emerging at the moment, most of them are only at the elite level, and very few are even at the bronze level. Lin Yuan keeps in mind that the elite level is already extremely dangerous for himself. Dong Hai also emphasizes that for a small scene like the one they are in, he will enter alone first. Having said that, he summons his spiritual creature, which soon jumps off the owl. As soon as it reaches the ground, the wolf is quickly surrounded by mutant insects, and the MC wonders if that is not exactly what the insects want. Dong Hai winks and tells Lin Yuan not to be in a hurry, because a good performance still needs some time to prepare. Having said that, he makes a hand signal and activates his Wolfpack ability. While Dong Hai's creature releases its ability, the MC sees the creature's information, where the beast is called Shadow Terror Wolf, of exceptional quality, possessing a supreme ability of the Eclipse domain, in addition to the abilities Bite, Claw Strike, Attack Block, Black Ray, and Owl Bam Howl. The special trait is Shadow Entity. Lin Yuan thinks that the Shadow Wolf's cultivation is simply exceptional, and that the creature's special traits are perfectly suited for long-duration, high-intensity combat, so he knows that merely witnessing such a battle already makes the trip worthwhile. After the Shadow Wolf easily defeats the mutant insects, Dong Hai comments that he had said it would be easy and not dangerous at all. However, Lin Yuan notices Yin looking uneasy and soon asks if something is wrong. She replies that she has the feeling that someone or something is watching them. While they hover over the rift, a black crow is watching them. Lin Yuan tightly holds his little creatures and tries to calm them, saying that the trip will not be dangerous. But Yin flies off, saying that something does not seem right. The MC shouts, asking her to come back. Then, he realizes that Su Jin and Dong Hai are not there, and, even more surprised, notices that he is flying atop a black bird.